A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Lost in a London fog, uncertain whether the figures looming around you are real or creatures of your imagination. And somewhere in the wet grayness lurks a murderer from whom you must escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure. Tonight, we escape to a fog-shrouded city and the terror of a shell-shocked mine, as Algernon Blackwood describes them in his ghostly story, Confession.
There was no doubt about it. The woman was dead. Her cheek was cold to my touch. The head of the long, sharp hat pin protruded from her breast above the heart. She was dead, murdered. And I stood there by the bed, my brain whirling crazily. I was alone in an empty house with a murdered woman. And then suddenly fear flashed across my brain and cleared it. I heard the door below open and close. Footsteps. Someone was coming across the downstairs hall, onto the stairs, coming up here. In a moment I would be discovered. In a moment someone would walk into this room and see me standing over the body. In a moment my escape would be cut off. Quickly I slipped across the hall and into another of the empty bedrooms. I leaned against the closed door, breathing heavily, listening to those steps come closer. Would he look into any of the other bedrooms first? Would I be discovered here? He passed my door and went into the room, straight in, closed the door behind him. Then he knew where to come. I waited a moment, waited for some sound, some gasp of discovery. There was none. Then he knew what to expect. I must escape quickly before he came out of that room. I started down the stairs, carefully, to avoid any sound. And suddenly the door of that room opened. The beam of the flashlight searched down the hall. I took the stairs 3 at a time, burst open the front door, and fled into the street, fled into the sanctuary of the fog. How long and how far I ran, I do not know. I could see nothing, feel nothing but the clammy dampness of the fog. I don't know whether he was still following me or not. I ran out of sheer terror, up one street, down another, with no idea of where I was or where I was going. Perhaps I was running in circles. Perhaps I would run right back to the house. Well, I stopped. I leaned heavily against the wall. My hands were shaking as I raised them to my perspiring face. I held them there to steady them, ran them through my wet hair. My hat. I didn't have it. I'd left my hat back there in that room, on the bed beside that dead woman. And it had my initials in it. Nearby, a street lamp formed a fuzzy ball of yellow in the enveloping murk. And now a figure loomed suddenly beneath it, just as she had materialized so short a time ago under another streetlight. Or was it the same one? Was it she again? Was it he, the one who was following me? Was it real at all? Perhaps it was only a creature of my madness.
I guess, you're ill.
I...
Oh, here, old fellow, let me help you. Why, you're almost ready to fall.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Here, just lean on my arm.
Yes. You are real, aren't you?
Real? Huh. I don't understand. I say, you're very near collapse, you know. And I happen to be a doctor. Luckily, too, you're just outside my very house. Come in for a moment, won't you?
Why, you're very kind. Yes, I will, if it's not too much trouble for you.
None at all, my dear chap. Please do.
Within 5 minutes, I was seated in a comfortable chair before a toasting fire, sipping a hot cup of tea. I could feel my nerves relaxing, but the traces of my illness must have been clear on my face, because my host observed.
Your trouble is shell shock, isn't it?
Why, yes, how did you know?
I've been in the service, and I'm a doctor.
Oh, of course, I only meant I'm supposed to be recovered, or almost. But I got lost in the fog, felt ill suddenly. Terrified, you know.
I know. You should never have been out on a night like this. If you've got far to go, you'd better let me put you up.
You're very kind indeed, but I don't want to be any trouble.
No trouble at all. I'd like to be of help. It's the least we veterans can do for each other. Oh, the blasted war. Thank goodness it's over. You're not English, are you?
No, Canadian. I haven't been demobilized yet. I'm still in the Army Hospital at Regent's Park under the care of Dr. Henry.
Ah, yes. Very good man. I'd say he's done well by you. Up till tonight, I mean.
Yes. Of course, we had no idea there would be a fog. I still get in a panic when I feel all alone.
Well, that's usual, but then there was something more than that tonight, wasn't there?
What do you mean?
Simply that you've had rather a severe shock quite recently, haven't you?
How did you know that?
My dear chap, I'm a doctor. My business to know. You were in much too agitated a state when I found you for me to suppose it could have been done simply by the fog. And, if I may hazard another guess, I should say it would be a relief to you and wise as well if you could unburden yourself to someone who would understand. Am I not right?
Someone who would understand. That's just it. I doubt if there is anyone like that. It's so incredible.
Oh, the more incredible, the greater your need to tell it. Repression in cases like yours can be dangerous, as you must know. You think you've hidden it, but it bides its time and it comes up later causing a lot of trouble. Confession, you know. Confession is good for the soul.
Yes, I suppose you are right. But it is so wildly unbelievable.
Since we're strangers, my belief or disbelief can make no difference. And I think I can promise you in advance that I shall believe all you have to say.
Well, but I've got to tell somebody about it soon anyway.
Cigarette to help with telling?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'd better start back at the very beginning of the adventure, then. It started today at the sanitarium. I've been there for some months, and today, when Dr. Henry called to check on me, I knew...
Well, young man, you're as fit as a prize heifer and twice as frisky. The diet here must agree with you.
I have no complaints, Doctor, but if I'm well again, then I'd like to get back into circulation.
Will you listen to him, nurse, rushing things as usual? You'd think he didn't like us here.
The way he bothers us to let him go into town, I'm sure of it, Doctor. He's getting so healthy, he's bursting at the seams.
There, you see? How about it, Doctor? Can't I just have a day or an evening in town?
What's the great attraction in that dirty place? Some girl, no doubt?
Well, yes, that is in a way. I met her in France. She's a Red Cross girl. She's invited me to stop in for tea if I'm up in London, and, well, it's just that I'd feel human again, seeing a girl having tea, a cigarette, chatting. That's all.
Young man, I not only approve of your day in town, I'm prescribing it. It'll do you good. You've got to start getting used to society again anyway.
And you think I can manage it alone?
Why not? You get around the neighborhood by yourself well enough, don't you? There's nothing so very different about London. Certainly nothing to be afraid of.
No, of course not.
Call the young lady and find out the directions, where to get off the underground, what turns to take, and so on. Go in the daytime, return before dark. No danger of getting lost. Should be simple. Nothing to it. Do you good.
Then this means I'm getting better. I'll be able to go home soon?
There you go. Rushing things again. But yes, I think perhaps we're on the last leg. Oh, that'll be all, nurse.
Yes, Dr. Henry.
Now, tell me, young man, what about your friends?
No, Doctor. I think they've deserted me. I don't see them anymore. No more ghosts. No more dead comrades stopping in for a chat.
Good. For how long now?
Oh, several weeks at least. I can hardly remember when I last saw one.
Thought you saw.
Yes, thought. Of course, in the dark room at night, sometimes the
That's
shadows...
not quite the same thing. Lots of well people fancy they see the shadows move at night, especially after they've been reading some penny dreadful.
Yes, I suppose so.
At any rate, you can distinguish between the real people and the unreal now, and that's a big step, considering how you were a few months ago.
Well, it's only when I feel completely alone, cut off, that the old panic begins a little, but not as much as before.
Many people don't like to feel alone and cut off, but they can fight down that panicky feeling, nip it in the bud. And so will you in time. But I must warn you, a severe shock could undo all our work. By all means, avoid shock.
Avoid shock, he said. Very funny, isn't it? But who could have known then what would happen? How could I have suspected as I went about planning my day in town, my holiday? I called the girl who arranged our tea party. I was to be at her little house in Morley Place at 4.
So easy to find the first time. With your Canadian backwoods instinct, she'll probably manage it better than any Londoner.
Yes, I'm sure I will. It's near South Kensington Station, then.
Exactly. You change at Piccadilly Circus
Yes.
without leaving the underground station and come to South Ken. That's 3 streets left from there, then 2 right, 1 more left, and right again into Morley Place. It's really not far.
Oh, I'll find it, all right. Now, don't go to any great bother.
Oh, you just leave that to me. This is a special occasion, you know. Till 4, then.
Until 4. Yes. Thanks. And so it all started out as a cheerful adventure. And everything went well into the city. I made my change underground at Piccadilly, took the local to South Kensington Station. And there I came up at the surface again. And when I walked out, I stepped into a solid, opaque blanket of white fog. I could hear the traffic, the rumble of the city around me. I could hear footsteps, an occasional muffled voice. But I could see almost nothing. This is how a blind man feels then. The only objects of relief from that dreadful enveloping gray wall were an occasional blur of yellow from a street lamp, or a motor car headlight, a glimmering patch from some big lighted shop window here and there, and the figures of other people passing by, dark and floating and indistinct. Or were they people? Might they not be those phantom figures again, just like the ones that haunted me before I went into the sanitarium? Ghostly, blurred figures of dead comrades from Dunkirk and Abbeville and the mud of Belgium. Ah, here comes another one. I can hear his cane tapping. Look closely now, make sure. There. He looked real enough, didn't he? They are real, I'm positive of it, and I'm not alone. They're all around me. But even as I told myself this, the old panic was growing inside. Here now, old fellow, you've got to get hold of yourself. Next one comes along, speak up. Speak up to him. Ask him the way to Morley Place. Ask, can you put me on the trail to Morley Place? Just like that. You'll see. Here now. Here he comes. Ask the way. Beg pardon. Can you put me on...
Say, is this right for the tube station, do you know? I'm utterly lost. I want South Kensington.
Why, yes, I have just come from there. Straight along, I think.
Oh, thanks awfully.
Oh, but I say, can you put me on the trail to Morley Place? He's gone. Well, no matter, he was real enough. He spoke up like a real person, all right. Maybe the next... Oh, I say, I beg your pardon.
Oh, I'm frightfully sorry. I didn't see you and you standing still.
I'm afraid I must be lost. Can you direct me to Morley Place?
Oh, dear, I think you've missed your turning. You'll have to double back a street and maybe 2 and take the first turn to the right and go 1 street and then double back 2 and then left again and you'll come to...
I say, thanks. That was first right and then... She's gone. Disappeared. Like a ghost. The panic was rising in me. They were real people, yes, but they appeared and disappeared so disconcertingly quickly. And when I turned off down the main street, there were fewer of them. I turned again and again. But I couldn't remember the directions. Suddenly, I knew I was lost. And now I was in some little backwater where passers-by were rare, where no one came, where I was alone. Now the panic swept over me. I stumbled on a curb. My cane swept empty air. I fell to the icy pavement. I was shaking so that I couldn't rise to my feet. I crawled across the open space of the street on my hands and knees. Only when I crossed the curb and felt a warm wall could I stand up again. And then I stood there, shaken and frantic. Morley Place must be very close, the little Red Cross girl waiting with her warm fire and hot tea. But where? Where? Suddenly, in the yellow blur of the nearest street lamp, a faint darkening of the fog caught my eye. It was not a figure this time. Only the shadow of the pole, grotesquely magnified. No, it moved. It came toward me. It was a figure, a woman. It came right up to me. Fear gripped me, and then I remembered the doctor's advice.
Don't ignore them. Treat them as real. Speak to them and go with them. You will soon prove their unreality then, and they will leave you.
And so I gripped the wall behind me and spoke to her. Lost your way like myself, haven't you, ma'am? Do you know where we are, Toll? Morley Place I'm looking for.
Where am I?
Well, I say you're more frightened than I am. May I help you?
I'm lost. I've lost myself. I can't find my way back.
Same here. I'm terrified of being alone, too. I've had shell shock, you know. Let's go together. We'll find our way together, eh?
Who are you?
Name's O'Reilly, a Canadian. I'm going to have tea with a friend in Morley Place. What's your address? Do you know the name of the street here?
I came out suddenly, unexpectedly. I can't find my way home again. Just when I was expecting him to.
Oh, I say, steady, ma'am.
He may be there now, waiting for me at this very moment, and I can't get back.
Have you any idea of the direction, ma'am? Any at all? We'll go together.
Listen. I hear him calling. I remember.
Wait, ma'am. Wait. Don't leave me here alone. I'm going with you. Wait. She was running fast through the fog. It was all I could do to keep up with her. But I felt I must not lose her or my own nerves would go to pieces. How she found her way in the fog, running so quickly, I didn't know, but I kept close on my heels, running hard. I could smell a faint perfume in the air, trailing behind her. A faintly familiar odor, but not pleasant. And then suddenly she stopped and turned into the gate, so suddenly that I almost bumped into her. Oh, is this in? You found it then. May I come in with you for a moment? Perhaps you'll let me telephone my doctor.
Doctor?
Yes, Dr. Henry at the Army Hospital. I'm in his care, you know.
My home is somewhere here. I'm near it. I must get back in time. For him. I must. He's coming to me.
I say, ma'am. But she turned and walked toward the house. For a moment I hesitated. This woman was acting very strangely. But no matter, she was at least real, and I needed help. Quickly, I followed her up the steps across the porch. The door was ajar. She slipped through, and I followed into the dark house. It was so dark inside, I couldn't see anything at first. I stopped, groping. But she went on quickly, easily, as if she knew the way. She was ignoring me completely. I heard her steps cross the hall, go up the stairs quickly. I waited and listened. She walked along the hall upstairs.
Where? Oh, where is it? I must find it.
And now the hair on my neck felt as if it were rising. Was she, after all, another of my figures? Was she unreal, too?
Oh, at last, I've found it. I'm home again.
I heard her open the door upstairs, go in and close it after her. Then there was silence, profound silence. And I was alone in a dark, unoccupied house. The white-covered furniture in the hallway loomed like ghosts. And there was no sound. I felt my panic coming back. But she was upstairs. And at least she was companionship. I groped my way up the stairs. Along the upstairs hall. There was no sign of life. Where are you? I want to help you. Which room are you in? There was no answer. But as I put my hand on a table to steady myself, I felt something. It was a candle stump. With a gasp of relief, I took it up and lighted it. Now I could see a little. One by one, I tried the bedrooms. They were dusty and unused. The furniture covered, the mattresses rolled up on the beds. They were all alike. Until I opened the last door. Instantly, I knew this was it. I smelled the perfume. Only now I recognized it, understood why it was unpleasant to me. It was the smell of a hospital, of chloroform. And there was the woman. Her dark fur coat wrapped around her, her jewels just showing at the neck. And she was stretched out on the bed, motionless. Instantly, I knew she was dead. In the next instant, I thought I would go mad. The blood on her face was congealing. Her skin was cold. I knew then that she'd been dead for an hour at least, and that what I saw in the street was not real. This was the shock that Dr. Henry had warned me to avoid.
And what happened then?
Well, I heard the door open up downstairs. Someone came in. The one she'd been expecting, no doubt. And suddenly I realized the danger of my being found there beside a woman who had obviously been murdered. Well, I slipped into another bedroom, and when he went into that room with her, I slipped out and crept downstairs. I stumbled and he heard me, and I came out. I ran down and out into the fog, into the street and away. How long I ran or where, I don't know. When I was exhausted, I stopped. And then you came and found me. Well, what do you think? Tall tale, isn't it?
Yes. Strange, but not incredible. I see no reason to disbelieve anything you've told me. Things equally remarkable, equally incredible, happen every day in a big city. I know from personal experience. Oh, I could give you many instances.
But the woman, I saw her, and yet she was already dead.
Such things are hard to explain, perhaps cannot be explained, except, of course, your mind in its present state may still play tricks on you. Perhaps you saw a woman in the fog and followed her. You may have missed her and only thought you saw her go into that house.
But what about the dead woman? She was real enough.
Perhaps, perhaps not. She, too, may have been just fantasy. You may never have left the street.
No, I'm sure of that, at least. I must believe it. She was real, and the man who came up the stairs was real. If I didn't believe that, I think I should go mad.
Yes, perhaps that is important. Then, let me see. Have you any proof of what you saw? Something, perhaps, that you carried away with you?
None. But wait. I left something there. My hat. I left it on the bed beside her body. My initials were in it.
Ah?
And so if it was all real, I shall be getting a visit from the police one day soon.
Perhaps.
And then I'll know. And I'll be charged with murder.
I don't think so.
You think the police would believe this fantastic story?
As I told you, many strange things happen in a city like this. For instance, I knew of a similar case many years ago. Strangely similar case. Almost a coincidence. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I suppose so.
It happened during the last war. A colleague of mine, a surgeon now dead, married a charming girl, young and beautiful. He was wealthy, and they lived comfortably for many years. They seemed happy together. Then came the war, and he went overseas. His income was stopped, of course. The big house closed. His wife found life not so pleasant as before. And somehow she blamed her new hardships on him. You see, she was devoid of imagination, without any power for sacrifice. But she was still young and beautiful. The inevitable young man came along to console her. He was rich. They planned to go off somewhere. Only by chance, the husband came back from overseas suddenly. Just in the nick of time.
Well, he should have let her go. He was well rid of her, I'd say.
Well rid of her, yes. Only he decided to make the riddance final. He decided to kill her and her lover. You see, he loved her. He planned the time and place carefully. They met, he knew, in the big house, now closed. He waited for them there. The plan failed, however, in one important detail. She came at the appointed time, but without her lover. She found death waiting for her. Oh, completely painless death. But the lover did not come. The door had been left open for him. The house was deserted, and it was a foggy night like tonight. But he did not come. Instead, a stranger came.
Hi. And where was the surgeon all this time?
Waiting outside, concealed in the fog. He saw the man go in, and he followed in to kill him. But the man was a stranger. He came in by chance, like you, to shelter from the fog.
I think that I should...
Why, what is the matter, sir?
Why, I really must be going.
Oh, of course, if you wish.
Thank you for your kindness and hospitality.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, young man. I enjoyed your story, although I confess I expected one a little different. Your coat?
Thank you.
I'll walk with you to the door and give you the directions. You're in luck. I think the fog's lifting a bit.
Doctor, may I ask, your friend, the surgeon, was he ever caught?
That's the part of the story I don't know. He was clever enough so that I doubt it. Unless he told somebody, made a confession.
I see.
And even so, unless that other person had some proof. Oh, by the way, you can't walk about in the fog without a hat. Here, it's an extra one of mine. You needn't trouble to return it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I went out of his consulting room with the hat on my head. In 10 minutes, I was at the tube station. It was only there that I permitted myself to take off the hat and look at it. It was my own. The hat I had left on the bed beside the dead woman.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Confession by Algernon Blackwood, adapted for radio by John Dunkel, with Bill Conrad as O'Reilly, Ramsey Hill as the doctor, and Peggy Weber as the woman in the fog. Music was conceived and conducted by Cy Feuer. Next week...
You were trapped in the dark maze of the native quarter of Mozambique. A dead man at your feet, the police closing in around you. And beside you is a girl with whom you must escape.
Next week, we escape with Percival Gibbons' fast-moving adventure, Second Class Passenger. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You were trapped in the native quarter of Mozambique. 2 dead men at your feet, the police closing in on you. And beside you, a sultry girl who offers you escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the 4 walls of today. for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to Portuguese East Africa, to the fetid alleys and dangerous rooftops of Mozambique, in the highly incredible yet somehow thoroughly plausible adventure by Percival Gibbon, entitled The Second Class Passenger.
That's me, Ronald A. Dawson, second-class passenger. Oh, I could have afforded first class by pinching a little here and there, but nobody back at Rawson's department store in Cedar Rapids will ever know. The important thing is they're saying Ronald Dawson in drapery is taking a cruise around the world. And then there's really very little difference in the accommodations. And the second-class passengers are every bit as interesting as the first-class crowd. Take Miss Patterson, for instance. You'd look far to find a more charming, likable, altogether desirable young lady. Just the life of the party. We've gotten to be quite good friends by the time our cruise put in at Mozambique. Although the competition was always stiff, I can tell you. There were times I wish those other two, Jones and Twitchell, had missed the boat somewhere along the line.
Well, we've still a good couple of hours before we sail.
How about a ride in one of these native carriages, Miss Patterson?
Oh, dear, do you think they'd be clean?
Personally, I doubt it.
Although I don't know as I should care too much now. That Wuzo made me so woozy.
Great stuff, Uzo. It would take a Greek to think up a drink like that.
Or to drink it.
American gentlemen like to buy pictures?
No.
Very interesting pictures. Take a look.
Oh? No. Go away.
You know, we might do the port, though. The guidebook says it's the main point of interest. Now, let's see. Built by the Portuguese in 1600.
Oh, dear, never mind the statistics. I dare say the fort would be as dreary as the rest of the place.
Oh, yes. Mozambique's not at all like what you would imagine Mozambique to be like.
No.
Well, it's a one-horse town, all right. Main street and a couple of alleys.
Oh, and it's so dirty. You know, you'd think they'd do something about it in this day and age.
I'd like to buy fine knife.
No.
Field Point. Look, all fine work. Him belong to big Tanganyika chief.
I said no.
Dear.
Maybe someday wanna need fine sharp knife.
No. Now, get out. What did I need a knife for?
To protect yourself from the savage natives, old man.
All you'd have to do is call a policeman. He isn't doing anything else. You see him? Look at him out in the center of the street directing traffic like he was at the corner of State and Madison.
Then the traffic consists of 2 donkeys and an ox cart.
Yeah.
It will be a relief to get back on board ship and have a nice hot bath.
Yes, and real American food instead of that greasy fried octopus we had for lunch at that Greek place.
Oh, my, weren't they awful?
That's part of the broadening experience of travel.
Yes, I suppose so. Like that cute idol that I bought. I can't wait to show that to the girls at the bank. You know, oh, dear, Miss Dawson.
Yes, Miss Patterson?
Where's my idol?
Why, I thought Jones had it, or Twitchell.
Oh, not me, old man.
Well, you insisted on carrying it for Miss Patterson, don't you remember?
Oh, dear, I must have left it back at the Greek restaurant. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I did so want that idol. Don't you think you could go back for it, Mr. Dawson?
Well, yes, of course. But I wonder if I'll have time before the boat sails.
Oh, I'm sure you will if you hurry.
Certainly, old man. You got more than an hour yet.
You're sure?
Oh, yes. The steward told me.
Then I'll go at once.
Oh, that's kind of you, my dear Mr. Dawson. Now, mind you don't miss the boat.
Well, I'll try not to. Why, chances are I'll catch up with you before you've reached the landing stage.
Fine. We'll wait for you till the very last
I could have throttled that supercilious Jones insisting I had time. I knew there was time, but I had no desire to run off after a heavy bronze curio and leave Jones and Twitchell alone with Miss Patterson. She was too nice a person, and, they were such dreadful bores. Yes, and I suspected them of being phonies, too. But there was no helping it now, so I made my way back up the main street toward Lazarus' restaurant, where we'd had our indigestible Greek lunch. Somehow, this main street of Mozambique looked different now in the quick African twilight. The little saloons and the sidewalks were filling with men of every nationality and color. Many of them wore knives thrust through the belts of their thin white suits. Knives that looked as sharp as the glances they threw at me. I must confess, I felt a little strange and unwanted. Then, lounging toward me in the crowd, I saw a large woman, clad in a sort of burnous, but her brown face unveiled. She had very wide lips, and they were painted scarlet. And from the corner of her mouth, she dangled a cigarette. Her eyes were heavily mascaraed, and when she looked down at me, terror seized me. I was afraid she would speak to me. I didn't know what I should do or say, but she didn't. Instead, she laughed. And the way the loiterers responded, I was convinced that they were laughing with her at me. I must say I was relieved to reach the entrance of Lazarus' restaurant.
Good evening, sir. A little dinner for the gentlemen?
No, thank you. As a matter of fact, I just lunched here today. Very good. Excellent meal.
Thank you, sir.
I left a curio here, probably under the table. Have you found it?
Curio?
Yes. Some sort of a brass god. It was wrapped in newspaper.
Oh, yes. We got him right here for you.
Oh, that's good. That's fine. I'm in a hurry to get back to the boat.
Yes, you better hurry. Pretty soon she rains.
Rain? Why, there's not a cloud in the sky.
You see. Every night she rains in Mozambique.
Well, you ought to know, but I still doubt it. Oh, here. Buy yourself a cigar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You hurry quick before she rains.
Don't worry about me. I'm not made of sugar, you know. In just the few moments I'd been inside the restaurant, night had fallen. That sudden nightfall of the tropics. I looked overhead and clearly saw the stars. Thinking what a bad weather forecaster the Greek was, I tucked Miss Patterson's silly bronze idol under my arm and started off for the waterfront. I hadn't gone 200 yards when a large, warm drop of rain splattered on the back of my neck. Then 2 more on my hat. And before I could take cover under an arch, it was raining like Iowa in April. It didn't look like it would let up soon, and I wondered if there might not be a shorter way to the waterfront than the long walk down the main street and then the long way to the left along the docks. Surely one of these alleys that turned off to the left would lead me directly to the harbor and the landing stage. So I left the protection of the archway and turned into the alley at my left. 4 steps from the main street, and I was engulfed in darkness, wading through filth and mud over my ankles. But I was certain that I was on the right track, so I walked on and went straight into a blank wall. I turned to retrace my steps, but I could see no lights anywhere. I felt along the wall until it gave into another alley, followed it to another blank wall, and thence into another one. And now I knew I was lost. And now it began to rain in earnest. It pelted, it stamped, it whipped, it stung, it flashed. In a moment I was drenched to the skin. If it was dark before, it was now black as a tomb. I struggled onward because it was too terrible to stand still and feel myself being beaten to the earth by the sheer weight of the rain. I don't know how far I walked through those foul and fetid passageways, nor for how long. But at last, feeling my way around a corner, I saw a slit of light, a horizontal flicker beckoning beneath the door, and I heard voices. I lifted the bronze idol and rapped on the door with it, and the voices stopped.
What do you want?
I've lost my way. I'm wet through, and I don't know where I am. Please let me in. Please, let me in.
Of course you may come in. You aren't exactly who we expected, but come in. Come in.
I walked into a room that was unfurnished, save for a littered table and some chairs, and a gaudy picture of the Virgin that hung on the wall. On each side of it was a sconce, in which a slovenly candle guttered. A woman was perched on the corner of the table, a heavy shawl over her head. Under it, the dark face, propped in the fork of her hand, glowed sullenly, and her bare white arm was like a menacing thing. In a chair near her, a grossly fat man was huddled, scowling heavily under thick, fair brows, while the other man, he who had opened the door, stood smiling. The woman laughed softly and pointed to the image dangling in my hand.
What is that?
I beg your pardon?
That parcel you are carrying.
Oh, it's a curio, an idol of some sort. A friend of mine left it at the restaurant.
And you? You're a tourist from the cruise boat?
Yes, that's right. How did you know?
What are you doing here so late and so wet? The boat sails soon.
I know. I was trying to take a shortcut to the landing stage. I got lost somehow. I came ashore with some friends from second class. I left them to come back and fetch this idol, and here I am.
Give the young man a chair, Egon.
Oh, thank you very much. But I must go on as soon as the rain stops. If you can direct me...
It will not stop for a while yet. You may as well wait here.
Yes. We may be able to provide some entertainment for our second-class tourist. As soon as your friends arrive, my dear.
Friends? The police are not my friends.
You led them to us?
Would you walk about with your knives forever while I take all the risks?
Risks? Huh.
7 months you have done what you willed, untouched. I bought you freedom for 7 months, with smiles and love. Now you take your turn. One uses a knife, one goes to prison. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Who knows?
You could have talked with the prefect of police again.
Again and again. And for what? Life is not spending money. One pays for living, my friend, with work. Sometimes with jail. I have paid. Now is your turn.
You could have helped us once more. Only once more and we could have been out of the sewer and down the coast to Lorenzo Marx or Cape Town.
Why didn't you? Why didn't you help us once more?
Yes, why?
Always you say once more, once more. Now there is no more.
You are a sheep pig, a defiled and debauched.
I beg your pardon, sir.
What?
That's no way to speak to a lady.
What?
I'm serious. I don't like to hear such language used to a lady. I must ask you to apologize.
What the devil have you got to do with this?
You just came in out of the rain from the second class.
Please. Don't fight with him. There's trouble enough already.
But what the devil right has he got to come in here and tell me?
Yesterday you stabbed the Egyptian.
What of it?
Don't stab this one. You want the police to find you here with a corpse?
A corpse?
What does it matter how the police find us? We wait for them because we have no choice. You put them on us. We should do away with you.
Why do you lie? Even to yourself. Why must you hide your own blame behind my skirts? Great Mother of Heaven, you are neither man nor beast. You are...
Don't go on. Don't you dare say it.
Dare. You are just a Salmak.
No one says that to me and leave.
He's got a knife.
Salmak.
No, you don't. Stand back or I'll brain you with this idol.
You'll do what? You think I carry only a knife?
Pig! Dog, I waited for this! He forgot. I carry a knife.
Oh. Look what I did to him with this bronze idol. Horrible.
It makes a good weapon, your idol. It was a grand blow. A king's blow. You cannot help him now.
I killed a man with this little curio. And you've killed another with your knife. 2 men murdered. Oh, I must get back to the ship. You must come with me.
To the ship? Oh, la la. You think I'd be welcome in the second class?
Well, I don't know.
But we must go somewhere. The police will be here any minute.
The police?
Yes. Come. He's not raining so hard now. The police.
Oh.
They have come for those 2. They will be on both sides of us. Here, hold my hand.
Yes.
Stand perfectly still. I will tell you when it's safe to move. Now. They are all around us so they won't hear us. Come, now.
Where are we going?
We are escaping. But if you know from what we are escaping, you would not care where. Hurry. Hang on to my hand. And hurry. They have found the bodies. Now they are after us.
What will we do?
There is a door nearby. We must find it, or feel along the wall. Here. Father. Father. It must be here.
Yes, here it is.
Push it in.
It won't budge. It's bolted from inside.
You must push it in. It's the only way.
Here. Hold the side of it.
I have it.
Now. Not yet.
Hit it again.
It's giving.
Once more. Good. My friend, my great, strong friend. Up the stairs now, quickly.
Where are we going now?
To the roof. Wait.
Huh?
The rain has stopped.
Yes. The stars are coming out.
There is your ship out in the harbor.
I must get to it.
Listen. You hear them? We are not safe yet. Over the wall to the next roof. Hurry. Now, over to the next parapet.
Up. Oh. Are you all right?
Come up quietly.
Yes. What's that down there? A tent?
Yes. People are asleep. You must walk like a rat.
Who are they?
Who knows? If they see us, they will think you have come after the women.
Oh, but we could say...
There would be nothing to say. Shh. Someone's crawling out of the tent.
A man. With a sheet wrapped around him. He's coming this way.
Yes.
Why doesn't he see us?
His eyes are clouded with sleep, perhaps.
If he sees us?
It will be too late.
Then he won't. There. And there. Well, that took the fight out of him.
Take this, my little knife. Just a prick, and he is quite safe.
Oh, no, he's still enough now. He won't harm us. I really did him in, didn't I?
It was splendid. With only the bare hands to take an armed man.
Armed? I didn't know he was armed.
Of course. Of that you may always be sure. Look, there in his loincloth.
A dagger. At least 6 inches.
Yes. You are truly magnificent, my friend. You are a man.
You are a woman.
Then?
Wonderful woman.
I was wondering when you would kiss me. When you took offenses what the Russian said to me. I knew you would. But I wondered how soon.
Yes, I suppose I knew too, in a way. At least I thought how much I'd like to... But I wouldn't have had the courage before all this, I suppose.
Courage. Your courage is of the lion. Your strength is of the great bull of Swahili.
Thank you. Thank you. I wonder if we're far from the landing stage now. I mustn't miss my boat, you know.
You want to go back to the second class?
Well, naturally. That's what I was trying to do when I knocked on your door. Goodness, I've missed my dinner as it is.
Missed your dinner? Yes, that is so. But haven't you gained something else?
What?
Me. Look. Look at me. Is it nothing, friend, that you have saved me for yourself?
Yeah, but...
You conquer men as though you were bred on the roofs of Mozambique. You fight like a hero. A rush, a blow, a tumble, and you had them lying at your feet. Are you not glad that it was all for this? For me? kiss me.
I'd fight. I'd fight for you as long as there was anyone to fight.
You would. I know you would.
You lead on.
Where?
Wherever you will.
Come.
Of course, I don't expect you to believe this. Looking back, I'm still unsure it really happened to me. It's as though I dreamed it. Well, I don't know how many routes we crossed after that. A dozen, perhaps. Maybe 20. It was mad, I know, but I must have surrendered completely to the wild spirit of the African coast. I didn't seem to see the great ship lying out in the harbor, her lights blinking with the comforts of civilization. All my senses were focused on this slim, breathtaking figure leading me across the rooftops to a shadowy destination in which only one thing was certain. She would be there. I suppose in that moment, armed only with the bloody bronze idol, I was invincible. At last she led me down a creaking wooden stair that hung precariously on the sheer side of a house. And once more we were in the mud of a gloomy alley. Even the way she slid her arm along mine and softly grasped my hand filled me with greater power than I had ever known. Hand in hand we made our way down the alley and out into a little square where a night breeze rustled in the palms and smelled of the sea. And across the way a dim light showed through a big open door.
The little church of San Sebastian.
Oh.
Onde pensa que você vai?
The police.
After all this?
Não tenta escapar.
O quê? É que você quer comigo?
Eu tenho ordem de prendê-la.
Por quê? Eu não fiz nada.
Veremos. Me acompanhe agora.
Vamos, capitão. Devia haver outra maneira de resolver isto.
Esta vez não pega mal. Você está presa.
What's the matter with him? What's he want?
He says he won't let me go.
The devil he won't. What's he want you for?
Oh, my friend. This little policeman, they always arrest me when they get a chance. It is tiresome.
Está bem, deixe de conversar e me acompanhe.
Listen, copper. Scram, see? Take it on the lam. Take a powder.
Calle-se, do contrário será preso também.
I said scram.
Run before I can get to his feet. No, not that way. Into the church. The sanctuary. My magnificent one. You fear no one. You fight for me. So long as there is anyone to fight.
Yes.
There will always be someone to fight. They will never leave us alone.
Will they follow us in here?
These police might do anything. But I know one door they will not dare follow us through.
What is that?
Come. This way. Here. This door. First, I must wrap my skirts close. Now, come cleanly through the middle. Please do not rub the walls as you come. There. We are safe for a while. They will not follow us through that door.
Why not?
It was the door of the lepers.
The door of the...
It's all right. We didn't touch the portals. See? Down the alley are the lights of the waterfront.
Yes. Oh, where do we go now?
We have a little time now to breathe the clean air of the harbor. And then I know a little place where someone is coming. Get back in the shadow until they have passed.
It certainly was something to write home about.
Listen.
What is it?
I wonder what's happened to good old Dawson.
Oh, French.
I do hope he's found my idol.
The idol. I must return the idol.
No, don't. My friend, this is the greatest danger of all.
Goodbye.
Don't go. Magnificent one. Don't go.
I must. Goodbye. Hello there.
Here's Mr. Dawson.
Got here before you, it appears.
Yes. Did you find the idol?
Yes, but for a moment there, I was afraid I should miss the boat.
Oh, I say, old man, you're a bit disheveled.
Yes, I got caught in the rain.
And my idol. Oh, Mr. Dawson, you've got it all dirty.
Yes, it is a bit mussed. I dropped it once or twice, I fear.
Well, I think that was clumsy of you.
Oh, nothing. A little soap and water won't put to rights, I dare say.
Well, maybe. Well, we'd better hurry along. I'd hate to have to spend any more time in this dreadful place.
Oh, so should I.
Yes. There's the whistle. Now, that's the last warning, no doubt. But come on, everybody.
That's coming. Oh, Dawson, don't stand there mooning. We'll miss the boat.
Yes. Yes, in just a moment.
Say, is there someone standing there in the shadow of the alley?
I'm not sure. I thought for a moment...
That's funny, I could have sworn I saw you wave goodbye to someone.
Perhaps I did. Goodbye to Mozambique, to adventure and romance.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Adventure, romance, in this pest hole?
Twitchell, what would you say if I told you I had just killed a man, fled over the rooftops of the city, made love to a beautiful woman, fought the police, escaped through the leper's gate...
Oh, great heavens, Dawson. I'd say you had the wildest imagination I'd ever heard of. Nothing like that ever happens to a second-class passenger.
No, I suppose you're right. Nothing like that ever happens to a second-class passenger. Except in dreams. Come on, Twitchell. We'll miss the boat.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, has tonight brought you The Second Class Passenger by Percival Gibbon, adapted for radio by Mr. Robeson, with Harry Bartell as Dawson, Jeanette Nolan as the woman, and Kathy Lewis as Miss Patterson. Original music conceived and conducted by Cy Feuer. Next week...
You were isolated on a remote plantation in the crawling Amazon jungle, and an immense army of ravenous ants is closing in on you, swarming in to eat you alive. A deadly black army from which there is no escape.
Next week, we escape with Carl Stevenson's terrifying story, Leiningen versus the Ants. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Isolated on a remote plantation in the crawling Amazon jungle, and an immense army of ravenous ants is closing in on you, swarming in to eat you alive. A deadly black army from which there is no escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to the Amazon jungle and to a creeping, crawling terror, as Carl Stevenson told it in his gripping story, Leiningen versus the Ants.
First met Leiningen while performing my duty as district commissioner. As my boat neared his plantation landing, I saw him upon the riverbank, regarding me with mild interest. A great hulk of a man with bristling gray hair, bulky nose, and pale eyes. His entire appearance somehow suggested an aging and shabby eagle. He escorted me to the terrace and had a drink brought. I came quickly to the point of my visit and issued my warning. Leiningen puffed placidly at a huge cigar and listened as I told him, unless they alter their course, and there's no reason why they should, they'll reach your plantation in 2 days at the latest.
Uh-huh. Well, it was decent of you paddling all this way just to give me the tip.
Tip?
Commissioner, even a herd of crocodiles couldn't drive me from this plantation of mine.
But these aren't creatures you can fight. They're an elemental force, a gigantic catastrophe. 10 miles long, 2 miles wide. Ants, nothing but ants. And each one as big as your thumb. And each of them a fiend from hell. Unless you clear out at once, there'll be nothing left of you but a skeleton picked as clean as your own plantation will be.
I'm not getting out.
But you can't fight.
Yes, I can. I've got the best weapon there is, Commissioner. Intelligence.
But can't I make you understand the hideous...
I think it is you who do not understand. In the 3 years I've been here, I've met and defeated more than one catastrophe. Flood, drought, the plague. Events which caused many of my neighbors to flee for their lives. No, Commissioner, all my life I have lived with one creed. The human brain needs only to become fully aware of its powers to conquer even the elements.
Leiningen, your obstinacy is endangering not only your own life, but the lives of your workers and their families. You don't know these ants. I tell you, you don't know these ants. But Leiningen merely sat there, puffing at his cigar and regarding me with a smug grin, and I knew it was hopeless. As I boarded my launch and cast off, I realized I'd never met a man like that, and I could not help wondering
about the strange look in the Commissioner's eyes as he boarded his launch and cast off. Undoubtedly, he thought me insane. Well, he would not have been the first to think so. But I, Leiningen, knew my own powers. I was sure of myself. I knew that intelligence, directed aright, always makes man the master of his fate. That night, I called my Indian workers together in front of the plantation house. I saw their faces go ashen with terror as I told them that the ants were coming. Watched them as they milled around, muttering. I said nothing more to them. Finally, one of the men stepped forward. Blas, the foreman.
Patron, we have worked hard here for these 3 years. All of us. We have built the finest plantation in this district. We all share in it. It has been a home for all of us and our families. Now the ants come.
So?
Those ditches we dug last year, the pipe we put in the ground, that was for the ants?
Yes, that was for the ants.
If we moved our families across the river, the ants could not reach them?
Yes, that's right. And you?
The ants are mighty. We know what they can do. All of us think that you are mighty. Patron, we will stay with you and fight against the ants.
I knew that the men would give me that answer. I counted on it. I thought of the Commissioner and wondered what he would say at such unquestioning confidence. Would he still think I was insane? Or had he dismissed me?
Out of my mind. One man who calmly evaluated his chances against a deadly menace, coolly decided he could win and was willing to stake his life on it, to risk a horrible death for it. It was terrifying. And yet it was fascinating. The next morning, I sent for my assistant. Together, we went to the huge map of the district which hung from a wall of my office and checked the last reported position of the ants.
Last night, they had reached here, about 70 miles above this fork in the river.
Traveling southeast?
Yes.
Directly toward Leiningen.
Toward whom, sir?
That plantation at the bend in the river belongs to a man named Leiningen. When would you say the ants will reach there?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mentioned about tomorrow noon.
Tomorrow noon, still time.
Still time? What do you mean, sir?
Why, nothing. But what did I mean? Still time for what? For Leiningen to flee, or still time for me to... Even as I rejected the thought with horror, I knew that the fascination of that man was more than I could resist. That Leiningen's fight was drawing me back toward that plantation and death. I knew now past all doubt that I was going back. I had to. It was 10 o'clock in the morning when I rounded the bend and saw Leiningen's plantation before me. I put in at the dock and tied up the launch. Then I saw him standing on the bank above me, arms folded, stubby cigar in his mouth, and that same smug grin on his face. I made my way up to him.
Back with another warning, Commissioner?
No.
Back to stay a while?
Yes. You don't seem surprised.
No, I'm not.
You expected me?
I thought you'd be back. Come along. We'll get some horses. You'll want to ride around the plantation, take a look at the defenses I've rigged up.
Yes, I'll want to see the defense.
And the ants. We'll be getting a glimpse of them before long, I should think.
Yes, the ants. The defenses Leiningen had devised were quite impressive. Surrounding three sides of the plantation like a huge horseshoe was a ditch 12 feet wide. The ends of this horseshoe-shaped ditch ran into the river which formed the fourth side of the plantation. And at the upriver entrance to the ditch, Leiningen had constructed a dam by which the river water could be diverted into the ditch. A large hand wheel controlled the floodgate of the dam, and apparently Leiningen had ordered it opened immediately after my arrival. For as we now approached the ditch and rode along it, I could see that it was nearly full.
How do you like my first line of defense, Commissioner?
It's reassuring, like a moat around a castle.
Unless the ants know how to build rafts, they won't reach the plantation. But this is only the outer moat. There's a better one than this. Now, come along. We'll go up to the high ground where the buildings are. I can get a view from there.
Leiningen.
Huh?
I didn't see any women or children around the plantation or any animals.
Yes, that's right. Moved them across the river.
Then even you think there is danger.
Not because of danger, Commissioner. Matter of efficiency.
Efficiency?
Yes, cuts down on the efficiency of the men if they're worried about their families. Critical situations only become crises when oxen and women get excited.
I see.
Here we are. See the ditch?
It's much smaller than the others.
Yes, you've noticed how all the buildings are on this piece of high ground. The inner ditch surrounds them, and it's lined with concrete.
But even filled with water, this is no barrier. It's not big enough. Why, if the ants get this far,
they'll get no farther. This ditch wasn't built for water, Commissioner. You see the pipes leading into it? See those storage tanks on the hill? Petrol. We can throw up a wall of flame. Care to bet they won't like that?
I hope you're right. Leiningen, look. Over at the edge of the jungle, all those animals.
Yes. Running like the wind. Everything from jaguars to monkeys.
Good heavens.
Remember, they don't have any ditches.
But can they escape?
Now, they'll be all right as long as they don't get caught between the river and the ants. They can outrun the crawlers. But if they get trapped, it's either the ants or the crocodiles. Look. Up there over the horizon. There are your ants. Look at them.
It was a sight I will never forget. Over the range of hills, as far as I could see, crept a darkening hem, ever longer and broader until the shadows spread across the entire slope, then downward, uncannily swift, and all the green herbage on the entire slope was being mowed as by a giant sickle, leaving only the vast moving shadow extending and deepening, and all was moving nearer.
They're a hideous lot.
Leiningen, we can't last against that. Look at them. Why, they will fill your ditches with their corpses and still have enough to destroy every one of us. We've got to run.
Well, no, they haven't gotten to us yet, and they never will.
hostile army was approaching in perfect formation. No human battalions, however well drilled, could ever hope to rival the precision of that advance. Along a front that moved forward as uniformly as a straight line, the ants drew nearer and nearer to the water ditch. As they approached, two outlying wings of the army detached themselves from the main body and started marching along the sides of the ditch, no doubt expecting at some point to find a crossing. And during this hour-long flanking movement, the main army remained still. Across the scant 12 feet of ditch, I stared at them, and they stared back at me. Solid mass, every one as big as my thumb, with reddish-black body and long legs. Suddenly, a sound so unearthly as to freeze our blood jerked our heads in the direction of the jungle on the far side of the ditch. Coming toward the ditch at a stumbling gallop was a singular being, a writhing, animal-like blackened statue with a shapeless head and 4 quivering feet. It was a stag, covered over and over with ants. Leiningen threw up his rifle, and the stag fell lifeless to the ground, its agonies at an end. Horrified as I was, my curiosity impelled me to glance at my watch. I had to know how long the ants would take. After 6 long minutes, only the white polished bones of the stag remained. Now I could see a change in Leiningen. Gone was the sporting zest of the novel contest. In its place was a cold, violent purpose. He had to beat the ants because he now knew how long it would take them once they got to us. Around 4 in the afternoon, the ant scouts, having found no crossing, there was a stirring among the main army. And then an immense flood of ants about 100 yards in width commenced pouring in a glimmering black cataract down the far slope of the ditch. Thousands drowned instantly, but the rest began using the bodies as bridges. Leiningen immediately swung into action.
Push the dam, open the floodgate a little more. We've got to get the water in the ditch moving faster. Look at them drowned by the thousands.
But they keep coming. Even though the current carries many of them away, they're advancing.
Well, we'll fix them. What?
Yes, senor.
How about those shovels and petrol sprinklers? You passed them out to the men?
Yes, sir, it has been done.
Then get all hands here in a hurry. This looks like the spot for action.
Hey.
Commissioner.
Yes?
Beginning to see what I was talking about?
What do you mean?
About intelligence being more than a match for anything it tackles. Take the ants. They've got no intelligence. If they had, they'd have attacked along the whole length of the ditch instead of a narrow front like this. They'd have been across by now. No. Too bad I'm not running their campaign for them.
You can joke about it like that with ants halfway across the
All right,
ditch?
men. Busy with the shovels now. Dump some sand and quads on them. See how they like that. You with the petrol sprinklers. Stop popping. Aha! They don't like it, Commissioner. They don't like it a bit. Look at them.
Yes. But look at the ones on the far side of the ditch. Whole clumps of them rolling into the water. The rest are using them for bridges.
Yes. Smarter than I thought. They're widening their front, too.
Some of them are getting across.
Grab a shovel, then, Commissioner. Make them regret it. What's the matter?
They throw them, senor. They're on my eyes.
Get the petrol, idiot. Douse your hands in the petrol. Don't stop now, the rest of you. Club them. Club them.
We cannot hold it back, senor. We must run.
Keep at it. Keep at it. Don't stop now. Aha! Ah, the water's moving faster.
And now got the floodgates open.
Yes, they can't hold their own against the current now. Look at them, Commissioner. The water's carrying them away. We've beat them. We've won out. It was true. Leiningen had won. At least the opening round. The floodgates were left open to forestall any night crossing. But when dawn came, the dark blanket was still there, motionless across the ditch. Then we noticed a feverish activity on the other side of the plantation. Here, a grove of tamarind trees lined the far end of the ditch, and every tree swarmed with the crawling insects. But instead of eating the leaves, they were merely gnawing through the stems so that a thick green shower fell steadily to the ground. Well, it looks as if it's feeding time for our friends, eh?
Boss.
Senor,
Have all the petrol pumps brought here. Get everyone over here except the lookouts on the other side. Then pass out the shovels.
Si, senor.
Going to deprive them of a meal?
A meal?
Aren't they cutting down the leaves for food?
No. I wish they were. Looks like I underestimated them when I said they didn't have intelligence.
What do you mean?
I said if they wanted to get across, they'd have to have rafts. And that's just what they've got. Those leaves are their rafts.
Even as he spoke, the leaves went tumbling down the far bank by the thousands. The current drew them away from the bank, and each leaf carried several ants.
Don't worry, as long as you can keep spraying them and shoveling dirt on their rafts, they can't land.
But there will be too many.
It's true. Look, more leaves in the ditch all the time. Why, they'll have a solid carpet to walk across in a minute.
Not so fast, Commissioner. I've still got a trick up my sleeve for them.
The water! The ditch is drying up.
Yes, of course it's drying up. That's the plan. Those are the orders I sent to the dam.
Are you mad? As soon as it's empty, what's to prevent the... Look, the water's way down. It's almost dry. They'll be able to come across the bottom.
They'll not make it. The man at the dam will have opened the gates by now.
To flood the ants?
Right.
But what a chance to take. If anything should happen...
Here it comes. Here comes the water. Yes, we'll give the crawlers a ditch to ride in. Right out to the river. There. Look at them go.
Leiningen's tactics were successful at first. The violent flow of water at the original depth raced through the ditch, overwhelming leaves and ants and sweeping them along. 3 times the ditch was emptied. 3 times the ants raced across its bottom, and 3 times the rushing water, arriving just in time, carried them away. But the 4th time, as the water lowered nearly to the bottom of the ditch, we waited in vain for the rushing water, and then...
What's the matter? What's gone wrong at the dam?
Just as the man at the dam lowered the water almost to the bottom, the ants attacked. Before he could open the floodgates, he was almost surrounded. He ran. The ants kept coming. They are across the ditch.
Leiningen stood motionless, absorbing the news of his defeat without a word. Then he raised his pistol and fired 3 shots into the air. The prearranged signal for all the men to retreat instantly to the second line of defense, the concrete ditches more than a mile from the point of the invasion. Soon after we arrived there, the natives commenced straggling in silently. Leiningen waited until all of them had gathered. Then he spoke to them.
Well, lads, we won the first round and lost the second. But we'll smash the crawlers yet. Anyone who thinks otherwise can draw his pay and push off. There are rafts enough on the river and plenty of time still to reach them. You stay then. Good. Thank you, lads. And you, Commissioner?
I can't persuade you to give up the fight?
You cannot.
Then I stay, too.
Yeah. I knew you would.
Senor. You are the ants who read the ditch.
They're trying to get across?
No, senor.
I didn't think they would. There's plenty of food out there for them. My fields and orchards, the work of 3 years. Ought to last them until morning, anyway.
Yes, we were safe for that night. But the next morning, the black swarm was solid around us, and their shock troops were hard at work. They were dropping shreds of bark and twigs and leaves into the petrol-filled ditches, forming a floating bridge across the surface of the liquid. Leiningen stood silently watching this operation, and I could see a grudging admiration in his face. Then, after several hours, the attack came. Down the ditch they poured, millions of them, and across the bridge of twigs, rapidly approaching the inner side. Leiningen sat motionless, watching them. Leiningen, for the love of God, don't sit there like a statue. They'll be on us in a moment.
Let them fill the ditch first. Now, all right? Everyone back? Bloss, hand me the torch. Now we'll see how our friends like a little heat.
Flames from the ditch shot into the air, devouring ants by the millions. It was some time before the petrol burned down to the bed of the ditch, but when it did, the devils came back for more. Again, Leiningen fired the ditch to destroy them. And still again they came on, but at each successive firing, the task of the ants grew easier because of the film of ash which now covered the petrol. And as they returned to the assault time after time, a slow, sickening horror crept into my mind. I looked quickly at Leiningen, then at the petrol tanks.
He read my gaze and nodded slowly.
That's right, Commissioner. We could hold them off forever if our supply of petrol was unlimited. But it isn't. We've got enough to fill the ditch once more.
Leiningen, isn't there any way at all? We've got to do something.
I know. There must be a way. There must be. Yes.
What is it?
We'll flood the whole plantation.
Flood? But how?
The river's higher than any point except this high ground we're on now. If the river was dammed all the way, it'd overflow that stone breakwater and flood the whole plantation. We've got to close the floodgate at the dam. That'll do it.
You're mad. The dam is more than a mile away. More than a mile away.
Lads, listen to me. Listen, lads. I'm proud of you. Now, there's still a chance. By shutting the floodgates from the dam and flooding the whole plantation from the river. The moment I'm over the ditch, set fire to it. That'll allow time for the flood to wash away the ants. Then all you'll have to do is wait for me.
It's impossible. You can't get to the dam, let alone back.
That's why you're wrong, Commissioner. I'll get there, and I'll get back. Take care of things while I'm gone, huh?
I watched him as he calmly pulled on high leather boots, drew gauntlets over his hand and stuffed the spaces between breeches and boots, gauntlets and arms, with petrol-soaked rags. He shielded his eyes with close-fitting mosquito goggles and plugged his nostrils and ears with cotton. Then the natives drenched his clothes with petrol. Blas, who acted as doctor to the men, smeared a salve over him, and finally Leiningen was ready. And as he stood calmly surveying...
Ready for the run, I realized that this is it should be. I, Leiningen, would meet the ants and defeat them, or be defeated by them. Leiningen versus the ants. Yes, it was right that it should be like this. But now there was no more time for thought. Only action. I took a deep breath and then bounded across the ditch and among the ants. I ran in long equal strides with one thought, one sensation in my being. I must get through. I dodged the trees and shrubs. Except for the split seconds my soles touched the ground, the ants would have no opportunity to alight on me. I ran on. I was halfway to the dam before I felt ants under my clothes and a few on my face. I struck on them mechanically, scarcely conscious of their bites. And the dam drew toward me slowly. And the distance grew less. Finally, only 100 yards away. 50. Then I was there. I gripped the ant-covered wheel, but oddly had I seized it when a horde of ants flowed over my hands and arms. I strained, and slowly the wheel turned. And turned more. The floodgate was swinging slowly shut. Then it was shut. And the water was rising behind the breakwater. Closer to the top. Closer. And then it was spilling over. Flooding of the plantation had begun. I let go of the wheel and started back through the ants. I was coated from head to foot with the fiends. Tongues of fire stabbed at me as they bit into my flesh. I almost lost my head with the pain as I ran, knocking ants from my body, brushing them from my bloody face. And then one bit me just below the rim of my goggles. I managed to tear him away. But the agony of the bite and its venom drilled into the eye nerves. I saw now through circles of fire into a milky mist. I was almost blinded. But I knew that if I tripped and fell... I ran on, my heart pounding as if it would burst. Blood roaring in my ears, a giant's fist battering my lungs. And then I could see dimly that wall of flame at the ditch, but it was too far away. I could not last half that distance. I stumbled and fell. Felt myself being swarmed over, devoured. Tried to rise. A great weight. And then suddenly the vision of the half-devoured stag in my brain. 6 minutes, then nothing but bones. I couldn't let that happen to me. I couldn't die like that. To my feet. Drag myself forward. Draw the flame. The ditch. The ring of flame. Closer now. Only a little closer.
It seemed we had waited for hours when all at once through the blazing ring around us an apparition hurtled and fell full length on the ground. It was Leiningen, alive with ants, unconscious, with glazing eyes and lacerated face. We rushed to him, stripped off his clothes, and tore at the ants that covered him. His body seemed almost one open wound. In one place, I could see a white bone. Later, as the curtain of flame lowered, I looked out where the blanket of ants had been and saw only a vast expanse of water, covering the entire plantation and working its way to within a few feet of the concrete ditch. The ants were gone, drowned, and Leiningen had won. He lay on his bed, his body swathed from head to foot with bandages, but alive and still in command.
Everything in order?
Everything's in order.
I told you I'd come back. Even if I am a bit streamlined.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Leiningen versus the Ants by Carl Stevenson, adapted for radio by Robert Reif, with William Conrad as Leiningen and Lou Merrill as the commissioner. Music was conceived and conducted by Cy Cure. Next week...
You are groping through a dark alleyway in the French Quarter of New Orleans, with terror driving you on. And always before your eyes is the malevolent stare of a voodoo man, striking you with a deadly curse from which you must escape.
Next week, we escape with William Irish's eerie story of a voodoo-haunted band leader, Papa Benjamin. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when we again offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You are groping down a dark alleyway in the French Quarter of New Orleans, driven by terror, hounded by the curse of the Papaloi, a curse from which there is no escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape into two worlds, one of modern jazz, the other of primitive voodoo, and to a doomed man who brought them together, as William Irish imagined it in his eerie story, Papa Benjamin.
Police Department, 4th Precinct, Sergeant Tolliver speaking. Yeah? Well, pick him up on a drunk 723. Right. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Are you in charge here?
Yeah. Hey, aren't you Eddie Block, the band leader?
That's right.
Hey, Joe, look who's here, Eddie Block.
Well, never thought we'd get a visit from a big celebrity like you, Mr. Block. And at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I suppose, though, this is just the shank of the evening for a big shot orchestra leader.
Well, what can we do for you, Mr. Block?
I just killed a man.
You're kidding.
I tell you, I've just killed a man.
I guess you've been working too hard, Mr. Block. You're imagining things.
Here's the gun. Look at it.
Now, sit down, Mr. Block. Better have a drink of water. You'll feel better.
No. I'm all right.
Sarge?
Yeah?
This gun's been used all right. Smell.
Was it an accident, Mr. Block?
No.
Well, who'd you use it on? Who was it?
I don't know his name. They call him Papa Benjamin.
Sounds like
a white man?
No, he was a Negro.
Oh, well, now, in New Orleans...
Oh, no. It was nothing like that.
Well, what was he doing to you?
He was killing me.
Huh?
Killing you? But how?
Look at me. I used to weigh 200 pounds. I'm down to 102.
Well, how? How was he killing you?
Would you believe in anything you can't see, can't hear, can't touch?
Well...
I've been to the biggest doctors in the world. They don't believe me. How can I expect you to? I simply say I'm cracked and let it go at that. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in an asylum.
Now, look, Mr. Block. You say he was a Negro named Papa Benjamin.
Yeah, he was an old man. 80, maybe 90. Skin and bones, he could hardly walk. And I shot him.
You sure? You sure you killed him?
Yeah, of course.
Well, where?
I don't know exactly. In a little back alley in the Vieux Carré. Near Congo Square.
Supposing you take us there. Can you do that? Then maybe we'll find out this is just a bad dream.
This is the alley. To the right, between the buildings.
All right, let's go. You pack, Sarge?
You catch cold without it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go back there, honey.
Quiet, you.
Oh, cop.
Nice neighborhood.
This is it. In that door and up the stairs.
Now, come on.
Oh, no. Don't make me go up there again, please.
Better come, Mr. Block. You're showing us.
Hey, flash your light. There's somebody here on the stairs.
Huh?
Where is
he won't bother us. Dead drunk. Step over him and let's go. This ain't the most pleasant neighborhood to come calling in.
Is this it?
Yeah. In that door.
Now, come on.
Better call the commissioner. Mr. Block wasn't kidding. This man's dead.
But why? Why?
Because he was killing me, Commissioner.
It was self-defense.
He never came near me once. I was the one who went to him. I offered him $3,000, $10,000, any amount, and he refused. Finally, I offered him my gun and asked him to shoot me with it to get it over with quickly, not to drag it out any longer.
Then when he said no, you shot him.
Yeah. So you can lock me up now.
Mr. Block, do you think we want to hang a murder rap on you, one of the most popular celebrities in the United States? Use your head. Now, I'm trying to find an out for you.
He was killing me.
Look, an 80-year-old colored man who's so feeble he can't even go upstairs by himself, who has to have his food pulled up to him in a basket, is killing who? A stumble bum his own age? No. Mr. Eddie Block, the top band leader of America, who can name his own price anyway, who has about everything a man can want. Tell me just one thing, Mr. Block. How was he killing you?
By thinking thought waves of death that reached me through the air.
Now, Mr. Block...
You want to hush the whole thing up, don't you?
No. No, Mr. Block. But I'm going to get the whole story. So you might as well start telling me. From the beginning.
All right. It began one night about 2 years ago. We were playing at Maxim's on Charles Street. We were just another band. Small Dixieland outfit then. Eddie Block and his chips. Judy Jarvis, my wife, did the vocals, but we weren't setting the world on fire. Business was so bad I knew what to expect when I got a call from the manager one night after closing time.
Come in. Oh, hi, Eddie. I thought we'd better have a little talk.
It's that bad, huh?
We took in $4,500 this week.
Yeah, I see. And you can cancel my contract anytime it falls under $5,000. I get it.
Eddie, they can get the same liquor and sandwiches anywhere, but they'll go where the band has something. Tonight there were more waiters in the place than customers. Judy didn't even get a hand.
It's not her fault.
I know it's
Graham.
not her fault. She's okay, but... Well, I'm asking you, what's wrong?
I don't know. I'm getting the latest arrangement sent to me from New York. We sweat our heads bald rehearsing.
This is New Orleans, practically the cradle of jazz. You gotta give them something new.
Yeah, I know. When do I leave?
Well, finish the week up. See if you can do something about it by Monday. If not, I'll have to St. Louis to get Kruger's band. I'm sorry, Eddie.
Oh, that's okay. You're not running a charity bazaar. But I didn't feel so cocky about it. It looked like we were on the skids. The band just didn't seem to have it. And I wasn't good enough to figure out why and pull them out of it. I was feeling pretty low when I went back to the deserted bandstand to pick up some music. The place was dark and empty, except for a couple of scrub women cleaning up. A dark nightclub can be an eerie place sometimes. I got that feeling just before I saw it. Saw it lying on the floor between the stands, with a severed chicken claw with a red ribbon tied around it. I almost laughed. How did that thing get there? Then I picked it up and tossed it out of the floor where the scrub women were cleaning up. I certainly wasn't expecting the reaction I got. They took one look, turned, and ran out. I just recovered from that surprise and was bending down to pick up some music that had slipped to the floor when I heard someone come in. I guess I was pretty well hidden from view. Anyway, he didn't see me. It was Johnny Stats, my drummer, and he was acting funny, looking intently at the floor, searching for something. Suddenly, he spotted this chicken claw on the floor and grabbed it up with a terrific sigh of relief, stuffed it into his pocket, and walked out. What I did then, I did on a strange impulse, and it changed the whole course of my life. I followed Johnny Stats. I suppose I just meant to catch up with him and have a cup of coffee with him somewhere and ask about the chicken claw. But as I followed him farther and farther down into the Vieux Carré, down to Congo Square, it was a growing curiosity that kept me on his trail. When he turned into that dark alleyway, I stopped and debated. I felt like an eavesdropper, and yet something drew me on. And I walked up that dark alley. I passed that one lighted window.
Don't go no further, honey.
But I went on. Through a sort of tunnel into another alleyway, and then I stopped. Ahead of me, Johnny Stats stood before a dark, dismal-looking old wreck of a building. Suddenly, he whistled quietly. A gigantic man appeared out of the shadows. Johnny handed him the chicken claw and was motioned into the building. And then I heard sounds coming from the upstairs of that building. A throbbing drum, a wailing, an unearthly sound, and yet wonderful. An exotic, fascinating rhythm. This was music. Something new, something sensational, something that would set New Orleans on its ear and put Eddie Block in the big time. I had to get in there and hear it. I was mighty busy for the next 5 minutes. I ran back down the alley, overturning 5 or 6 garbage cans before I found what I needed. Then back to that lighted window in the alley, and a 5-spot in exchange for a red ribbon. Then I was back at the dark building, walking up to that menacing shadow.
Line up. Let me see your face.
Okay. Easy, with that knife. My ribs are tender.
Your face never been here before.
My friend Johnny Stats up there. He'll tell you.
Mr. Johnny, your friend? He asked you to come?
This chicken claw told me to come.
Papa Benjamin sent you there?
Certainly. You'll make me late. Papa Benjamin won't like that.
All right, go along here. First thing you know, all New Orleans will be caught.
I groped up the stairs, half expecting to feel his knife in my back. But I got to the top safely. Cautiously, I opened the door and slipped The room was full of people. They were in such a state of frenzy, I wasn't even noticed. I slipped into a corner and slid down by the wall, sitting on the floor. That was a sight I'll never forget. Wild, fantastic, hideous, revolting, fascinating. In the center of the room was an incredibly old man, naked to the waist, wearing a hideous mask, and holding a live chicken. There were wild gestures, weird incantations, frantic dancing, shouting, rolling of eyes. And there was blood. And always there was the chant. Nobody noticed me. After a moment, I took a piece of copy paper out of my pocket and began putting down the notes. It was wonderful. Fantastic and wonderful. In 10 minutes, I had it. And I'd seen enough for a lifetime of nightmares. I began to feel sick. I wanted to get out. I started to stand up. Suddenly, the room went dead.
A stranger is here.
His bony arm stretched out straight from the shoulder, pointing at me like an arrow. And there was blood on it.
What you do here?
I
know this man. Let me find out.
No one moved. There was no sound in the room as Johnny Stats came over and squatted beside me.
You're in terrible trouble, Eddie. I don't know if I can get you out of it.
What is this, Stats? And what are you doing here?
There's no time to talk now. You've got to do something quick or you'll be a dead man.
Why? I'm in the very heart of New Orleans. They wouldn't dare.
Listen, you've seen enough tonight. You know better. Eddie, there's only one way.
What?
Join. Become one of us.
No,
It's the only way, Eddie. I can't save you. You'd better hurry up, because unless you do, you'll never get out of here alive. You know what this is, don't you? This is voodoo.
Okay, sure, I'll join up. Why not?
Wait a minute, Eddie. There's a lot more to it than you think. Unless you're serious, it'd be better to get cut to pieces right now.
All right, don't worry. I'm serious.
All right. Papaloy. His spirit wishes to join our spirits.
The old man burned some feathers while the others watched silently. Then he nodded.
It came out all right. He reads them. The spirits are willing.
There were other things. Rituals, ceremonies, another sacrifice. Then as the chanting started again, they brought me the sacrificial bowl. I didn't have to be told what was in it. I started to draw back.
Drink, Eddie. Drink or they'll kill you on the spot.
Late next morning, the band assembled at Maxim's for a rehearsal. When Johnny Stats got there, he found another drummer sitting in his place. Naturally, he came to me.
What's all this about, Eddie?
I don't want any voodoo lover in my band, that's all, Stats. Here's a check for 2 weeks' salary.
So you're crossing them, are you? Boy, I would want to be in your shoes for all the gold in Fort Knox.
If you mean that bad dream last night, I haven't told anybody and I won't. I'd be laughed at. I'm only remembering what I can use of it. The jungle is just trees to me, the Congo a river, and the nighttime is just a time for electric lights.
Yeah, but this new number you're going to rehearse this morning.
I said I'd remember what I can use.
Listen, Eddie, that chant is sacred. It's secret.
It was secret.
Eddie, don't do it.
Look, here's a couple of C-notes. Hand them these. That ought to pay up my dues from now to doomsday. And I don't want a receipt. And if they try putting poison in my orange juice, they'll end up in a chain gang.
It's not that easy, Eddie. You're one of us.
Oh, get out.
Okay. Goodbye, dead man.
Graham, the manager of the club, changed his mind about canceling our contract when he heard us rehearse the chant. Instead, he spent 5 G's in publicity. And Saturday night was set for the big unveiling. It seemed like all New Orleans tried to jam into Maxim's, came to hear the voodoo chant, the real thing. Just before we were ready to hit it, Judy came up to me.
Eddie, listen. Let's not do it.
Oh, what do you mean, baby, not do it? This is it. This is our ticket to the big time. It'll be a sensation.
Yeah, I know, but I got a funny feeling. And look, I found this under your dressing room door just now. It sounds like a warning. Somebody doesn't want you to play that number.
Let me see. You can summon the spirits, but can you dismiss them again? Think well. Forget it, baby. Stats is trying to scare me because I fired him.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, honey, let's go. They're waiting.
Action takes great pleasure in bringing you a historic moment in musical history. You're about to hear for the first time anywhere the voodoo chant, the age-old ceremonial rhythm no one but the initiated has ever heard before. This is the real thing. An accurate transcription, not a note's been changed. So, ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Block and his Chips present for the first time anywhere the voodoo chant.
They screamed for more, but we were playing it cagey. Once a night, that'd pack 'em in. After it was over, I went back to our dressing room. Judy got there before me. She was reading a newspaper somebody had brought in.
Eddie, listen.
Oh, baby, you were wonderful, and we wowed 'em. We're in the money now.
Yeah, Eddie, but...
Oh, boy, am I tired. I feel more tired than I've ever felt in my life. Nervous strain, I guess, huh? Let down?
Eddie, look here in the paper.
Oh, who cares about the paper now?
Eddie, it's Johnny Stats.
Huh?
He's dead. He drowned himself in Lake Pontchartrain this afternoon.
This afternoon? Then that note, it wasn't Johnny.
Oh, well, look, Eddie, you can't blame yourself.
Me? Oh, no. No, of course not, but I think I know who to blame.
What do you mean?
Nothing.
Eddie, why don't you lie down and rest for a few minutes? You look worn out.
I am. I feel dead.
Here, let me take off your coat.
Oh, be careful.
What's the matter?
I don't know. Funny thing, while I was waving the baton on the chant, I felt something, a sharp pain there in my back, like a pin or something stuck in me.
I don't feel anything there now. Maybe it slipped down.
I don't know.
Couldn't have been much. There. Now, you just lie down. You'll feel better in a few minutes. You've been working too hard. You should relax now. Maybe take a few days off. Hey, Eddie, look here. Where did this come from?
What?
It's a little doll. It was lying on the dressing table. Why, Eddie, it looks just like you.
Let me see.
That's funny. Look, there in the back. There's a little pin sticking in the back.
Yes. That's right where I felt the pain. That started it. The next day, I had a backache. Later, there was a numbness that spread to my shoulders, arms, legs. I felt tired all the time, listless, dead. I began to lose weight. I couldn't get Johnny's Stats out of my mind. He'd introduced me to them, vouched for me, and he'd committed suicide. He knew. He hadn't waited. I decided to get out of New Orleans. I went to New York, playing the chant, of course. I had to. It was my biggest asset now. But nothing changed. I was losing weight, from a husky 200 down to 160. I couldn't sleep. Maybe if I put an ocean between. I took an offer in London, toured the continent, away a year. I was an international hit now, the biggest attraction in music. But I was down to 110, dying on my feet. The doctors couldn't figure it out. Reynolds in London told me.
You're as normal, Mr. Block, as anyone I ever examined. You're so well balanced that you haven't even got that extra little touch of imagination most actors and musicians have.
I guess that's true, Doctor. I'm just mediocre. And yet, you might say, my success is killing me. So, after 2 years, I finally realized it was no use. I came back. Back to New Orleans. Back to the dark alleyway down near Congo Square. I could just barely drag myself along. But I had to see Papa Benjamin. I slowly climbed the stairs, up to that loathsome door. I went in. There he was. Papa Benjamin. Staring at me from the bed as if he'd been expecting me. Then he started to laugh. Take that curse off me. Give me my life back. I'll do anything you say.
What been done cannot be undone. You think spirits of earth, air, fire, water know what forgiveness means?
Intercede for me, then. You brought it about. Here's money. I'll give you twice as much. All I earn. All I ever hope to earn.
You have fouled the Obaya. Death has been on you from that night. All over the world, in the air above, you have mocked spirit with a chant that summons him.
And please, here's a gun. Kill me now and be done with it. I can't stand anymore. All you have to do is shoot. I'll write a note, sign it, that I did it myself.
Death will come, but different. Slow. Oh, slow.
Oh, no. I can't stand it. I won't. Maybe if I kill you, maybe then the spell will be broken.
No.
Yeah, that's
no,
it. I'll kill you.
No.
And that's all, Commissioner. And I came here. To the police station. You know the rest. Well?
All right, Mr. Block.
Don't believe me, do you?
Yes, I believe you. Not about the curse, of course. That was your own mind. They planted the suggestion in your mind, you did the rest. But it's plain that you killed in self-defense. Crazy kind of self-defense, but I think we can manage it. We'll try.
The commissioner managed it all right. How is almost a story in itself. How a detective with a moulage false face posed as Papa Benjamin and called the Voodoo clan together and into a trap. How they collected the evidence that proved my story. And how they sent most of that voodoo bunch to jail. My name wasn't even connected with the case. So now I'm free. I'm living again. I've gained weight. The tiredness and the numbness is gone. I took a nice vacation. I went to Bermuda, relaxed, and had fun. Now I'm back in New Orleans at Maxim's, and the whole thing is forgotten. We're opening tonight, and the place is packed. Everybody's come to hear the chant. Eddie Block and the chant. We're on our way now. Nothing can stop us.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back on his triumphal return, Eddie Block and his chips, playing for you the one and only Voodoo Chant.
Look at them, Judy. They're eating it up, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's the matter?
I was hoping I'd never hear this thing again.
What do you mean? It's your trademark, yours and Eddie's.
I tried to persuade him not to do it, and he wouldn't listen.
Why? You aren't imagining all that voodoo stuff.
I don't know. It was all in his mind, and it nearly killed him. I don't think you can put it out of your mind. It forgets so easy. When Eddie plays it again...
Oh, nonsense.
Hey, wait a minute. Look at Eddie. There's something wrong.
What? Why, he's staggering.
Eddie!
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 Judy, now wait.
Here, let me pick him up. He's probably just fainted from the excitement.
No, leave him alone. He's dead. I guess Papa Benjamin won after all.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Papa Benjamin by William Irish, adapted for radio by John Dunkel, with Frank Lovejoy as Eddie Block, Louis Van Ruten as Papa Benjamin, Harry Bartell as the police commissioner, and Joan Banks as Judy. Music was conceived and conducted by Cy Fure. Next week,
you are speeding through the night on the Istanbul Express. You're alone and unarmed. And suddenly you realize that your life is in danger, that somewhere on the train are deadly killers from whom you must escape.
Next week, we escape with Harold Lamb's exciting adventure story, 3 Good Witnesses. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You are speeding through the Turkish night on the Taurus Express. You are alone and unarmed. And somewhere on the train is a calm killer from whom you must escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the 4 walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to Turkey, and the Taurus Express, which carries a shipment of death, as Harold Lamb told it in his exciting story, 3 Good Witnesses.
I took the Taurus Express that night because I was going home, back to the United States, back to California, and my routine job at the oil company. 2 days before, I'd given my final report to our State Department man in Istanbul, a negative report.
And Mr. Ward, your considered opinion is that there is no oil in this area?
Not enough to be worth drilling for, not at this late date. War'd be over before we could get out 10,000 barrels.
You're being optimistic, Mr. Ward. War isn't over yet. Who can say when it will be?
Well, that's true, but...
what does Arvark say?
He agrees with me completely. So does Wyndham, the British engineer. We're all agreed.
3 good witnesses, huh? Well, then that settles it.
What do you mean, 3 good witnesses?
Oh, that's an old saying out here in the Middle East. Come from the Arabs, I think. In their old law, the testimony of 3 independent and trustworthy witnesses was enough to establish the guilt or innocence of an accused person.
But why 3?
I suppose 2 witnesses to a crime might tell the same lie. But if 3 fellas tell the same story, well, it must be true.
Maybe. Now, I suppose the odds against 3 making up the same story would be high, but I don't know whether I'd like to trust my neck with that kind of justice.
Yeah, it is a little different from the justice back home in Chattahoochee County. I imagine you'll be wanting to get back to the States as soon as possible.
Indeed, I do.
Well, I can put you on the Taurus Express Wednesday. You'll be in Cairo by Saturday. Get an ATC plane that'll have you in Washington 3 days later.
Istanbul to Washington in less than a week. It's a small world, isn't it? I was booked on the Taurus Express, leaving Istanbul on Wednesday night. I got to the station late, and as I walked down the long platform toward the first-class carriages, I sensed a tenseness in the crowd. First, I couldn't explain it. Then I noticed that the platform was alive with police. They stood at the door of every car, motionless, solemn-faced, carefully scrutinizing everyone who got aboard. And it seemed that everyone on that bustling platform was aware of them. I found my car near the front of the train. A policeman stood at the open door. I paused to verify the car number, and suddenly I heard a voice at my elbow.
I thought I had missed you.
A pair of arms twined around my neck. A pair of lips were kissing me. Pushed her away to try to see her face, but she clung to me. Tried to say something, but she kept talking so fast I couldn't get a word in.
How could you do this to me? To run off without even saying goodbye? I must be with you right up to the last minute, my darling.
Last I could see her. She was beautiful. Very young and very beautiful. Turkish or Greek, I couldn't tell which, but lovely.
Why? You must let me go on the train with you. See you safely to your compartment. I cannot bear it.
Madame, I'm afraid you're making a mistake.
Please, you must help me. I will explain.
But
Come, you will miss the train. I will see you safely on board. Come, hurry, so we may say our last goodbye in privacy.
This last was thrown over her shoulder to the policeman standing there. She pulled me up the steps into the car. He stared at us, but he said nothing. In the moment, we were standing in the deserted corridor.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank
you. Now, look here, young lady. What is all this?
It is the fault of those police standing out there. I could not get into the car alone.
But why not?
This is a first-class car. Only rich foreigners ride in first-class compartment. I could see by your clothes you were American. I knew you would help me.
But why did you want to get into this car, especially?
Because I...
Suddenly she stopped, and her eyes were riveted on something behind my back. I turned to see a swarthy young man staring at us from the other end of the car. He was dressed in the uniform of a train conductor. Slid open a compartment door. There was an almost imperceptible jerk of his head, and then the girl slipped past me and into the open room. The conductor slid the door shut after her.
Your number, sir?
Huh? Oh, yes, 12.
Yes, the next one. Here. If there is anything I can do for you, I shall be pleased. If you care to leave your ticket and passport with me, I shall be able to attend to Syrian customs without disturbing you later.
As he talked, his eyes were not on me. He was watching the slow progress of a policeman through the car. The officer was walking by, glancing into each compartment. When he came opposite us, he spoke to the conductor.
Polikala.
Conductor was standing squarely in front of the door of the girl's compartment, hiding her from view. Policeman walked on. In a moment, he had disappeared.
Thank you, sir. I shall not disturb you.
I went into my compartment. My bags were already there. The train was about to leave. Everything was in order. But I couldn't help wondering about the incident I just witnessed. About the girl I'd involuntarily hemped and the conductor. Wondered about all those police out there. Obviously, something was going on. Then I remembered. This was Istanbul, a gateway to the Middle East. It was supposed to be alive with acts of spies. Could that girl be... Then I laughed. Just my overage, stay-at-home mind imagining things. Then suddenly I heard a voice in the corridor outside.
What's the big idea?
The voice was unmistakably American and music to my ears. I jumped to my feet and stepped into the corridor. There outside the next compartment was a young man, in civilian clothes, carrying a small bag and a briefcase. The swarthy conductor was approaching him with a worried look.
How about this, huh? There's a dame in my compartment.
Beg pardon, sir. There must be a mistake. This is compartment number 10.
Naturally. You think I can't read? Number 10, that's mine.
But number 10 is not sold. It is not marked on my list.
The heck it isn't. I've got the ticket right here. What's with the dame?
Please, not so loud.
I don't get this.
I beg your pardon. Can I be of any help?
Oh, you're an American, too.
Yep. Humphrey Ward, Los Angeles.
Tom Hatfield.
Glad to know you.
Look, what's with the dame? Do you know?
No, I'm afraid
Please, gentlemen, step into the compartment, please.
But the girl...
Please. In. Yes?
Okay.
Well,
Please, sir.
Oh, all right.
Passaria. Apiseme, natukamo.
Hey, wait a minute. Talk English. What's all this about, anyway?
It is... I am embarrassed, sir.
You're embarrassed. I buy a ticket and find a dame in my compartment. Of course, on closer inspection, maybe I'm not so mad after all. She looks like a good deal.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you do speak English, huh?
Sir, the policeman will come by, maybe look in. I must ask of you a favor.
Yeah?
If she could stay here just until the train has started, she will not bother you after that.
Why can't she stay in her own compartment?
Please, sir, I have no place else to put her. All the other places are taken.
Oh, she's a deadhead, huh?
Deadhead?
No ticket. Stowaway.
It is something like that.
Well, what's the setup? She your girlfriend?
No, it is not like that. It is... You see, we are both Macedonian. She is escaping from the Nazis. She wants to go to Cairo to join the Nurse Corps.
Oh?
She has been for 2 years in Greece, under the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
She is a real patriot. If you will help her...
Well, maybe if you introduced us and let her speak for herself.
She is called Maradalas.
Well, let's make it Mary for short. Mary the Deadhead. Hi, Mary.
Hi. You're okay.
Get her. She talks American.
I spent 2 years at the American school at Thessalonica. I work with Red Cross in Greece during the fighting.
Right so?
I like Americans. I want to go to United States.
Who doesn't?
I want to learn to be a real nurse. You will help me. Americans are always kind.
Mm-hmm.
This gentleman here, he helped me get on the train.
Naturally.
Now you will help me. Okay?
Okay.
Oh, thank you, sir. Now, I must go before the policeman gets suspicious.
Gee, this may turn out to be a pleasure.
Looks like you don't need me. I'm in the next compartment. Maybe we'll get together later.
Sure. I'd offer you a seat, but we're sort of crowded already. Mary and me.
I went back to my seat laughing mostly at the silly idea I'd had that maybe Mary the Deadhead and her conductor friend were spies of some sort. Obviously, they were harmless. As harmless as I was. And that was completely harmless, confound it. I looked out the window as the train slid out of the station, leaving Turkey, leaving the war, going home. Back to complacent safety. Men were out here fighting and dying. They'd get no help from me. Me, overage and useless. I felt pretty sorry for myself. It wasn't until the next day that I began to get acquainted with my fellow passengers. Mary the Deadhead was riding on the conductor's jump seat at the end of the car. The Ruvians, an Armenian couple, were in 14, the compartment next to mine. Young Tom Hatfield was on the other side of me. And 2 Greek refugees, Mr. Chiniara and Mr. Drikar, were next to him in 8. Hatfield kept pretty much out of sight all day, and it was Mr. Chiniara who shared a table with me at dinner that night. I didn't much care for him, but he was somebody to talk to.
You Americans, you do not realize how lucky you are.
No, I suppose not.
You do not know what it is to be safe. Just look around you. Almost all the passengers on this express are refugees. All of them would pay much to be going to the United States as you are.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But yes, where else is there any security for us? But you, sir, and your young friend are already secure. Wherever you go, you are always safe. But it is not so for us.
Yeah, I suppose we do take a lot for granted, and... Oh, here's Mr. Hatfield now. Hatfield, won't you join us?
Thanks, no. I'll just sit over
no,
there.
I insist. I was just leaving. You must join your friend.
Oh, really? There's no need?
Insist, please.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chiniara. It's been a pleasure.
And for me, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Take it easy.
Well, I haven't seen much of you today. Been resting, eh?
Something like that. You ordered?
Yes, I'll call the waiter.
Never mind. He'll be back. Who's your slick-haired friend?
Oh, Mr. Chiniara? He's a Greek refugee, just escaped from the Nazis.
Everybody out here just escaped from the Nazis.
He was saying how lucky we are to be Americans. Guess I don't see many of us in Turkey these days.
I guess not.
Haven't seen many of us myself. Funny, I didn't run into you in Istanbul.
I wasn't there, just passing through.
Oh. No, I thought I'd have met you at the American mission or somewhere.
No.
Well, I'm out here at the State Department. Oil. But I didn't have much luck. I'm going home now.
Too bad.
Plenty of things for us Americans to do out here, though. Like, oil and other things, you know. Of course, they give the unimportant stuff to has-beens like me. Leave the good stuff for young fellows like you.
Okay, Mr. Ward.
Huh? What?
Okay. I'm Tom Hatfield, Frankfort, Kentucky. White, Protestant, 26, unmarried. No, I'm not a draft dodger, and no, I'm not AWOL. And yes, I'm here on business, which is none of yours. I'm a captain in the Air Force. 2 years overseas. You might say officially I'm on a holiday. The fact is, I'm taking this train to Adana, where I get off at 5 tomorrow morning, cross the border, and catch a plane that's waiting to take me to Cairo. Anything else you want to know?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Sit down. I'm sorry. I guess I'm getting on my own nerves. Forget it, will you?
Oh, it's nothing. You needn't think that...
Riding on trains is kind of bad for a flyer. Makes me jumpy.
I understand. But you must have already been through a lot. I do understand. I was in France in 1918. I know what it's like.
Maybe you know better than I do.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but I envy you. I'd give anything to be in it.
You're lucky you're not.
Oh, I know. It's no fun being old and useless like me either. I envy you. I can tell you're doing something important.
You can? How?
Mm-hmm. By the way, you're so careful with that briefcase. Carry it around with you all the time. You got it on your lap now. Probably got something important in it. Dispatches or something.
So you noticed that, did you? Well, I hope nobody else on this train is so observant, Mr. Ward.
Oh, you're pulling my leg. What difference would it make, anyway?
You can never tell. On a train like this, out here, you never know.
Oh, you mean spies?
Well,
But why? I haven't seen anyone who looks suspicious.
Spies are never suspicious looking, Mr. Ward. They're anybody. Anybody who wants to make a quick buck and doesn't care how he does it. This train is alive with people like that.
Oh, yeah, but who?
Well, just take, for instance, Mary, the deadhead. She's young and pretty, yes. But she's broke. And her shifty-eyed boyfriend, the conductor.
Oh, but they're Greeks. She's a refugee.
So she says. But didn't it seem strange to you that he put her in my compartment by mistake? My name wasn't on the list, so he said. Were you satisfied with her story?
Well, for a moment I was suspicious, but...
You can't take too much for granted. Now, for instance, the story I just told you. I might be a spy, mightn't I? That whole thing might be hogwash.
Well, no. You're American. I know that. Who else would say hogwash?
No matter. I could be an American traitor. There are such things.
Oh, but that...
Or you might be the spy. Yeah, they even look like you. Meek and mild. Casper Milquetoast. And their cover stories are pips. Like telling you they're out here looking for oil. They strike up a conversation, ask questions, and notice briefcases.
Oh, but look here. Surely you don't think...
No, I don't think anything. I only say, you never can tell, Mr. Ward.
Of course he was kidding me, pulling my leg. But I didn't really mind. I liked him. And he had a right to be cocky and flipped. He was doing something for the war effort. Even though I knew he was kidding me, I went to bed thinking about spies and fell asleep dreaming of them. Then very suddenly, I woke with a terrible sense of urgency. There was something that I must do. I looked at my watch. It was 10 minutes to 5. The train was dark. Everything was quiet. And yet, I felt I had to get up. I started to put on my clothes. It didn't make sense, but then I remembered. It was Tom Hatfield, not me, who had to get up at 5, leave the train at Adana to cross the border into Syria and take his plane. Those dispatches must be important. If he had to change to a fast plane as soon as he got out of neutral Turkey. When I stepped out into the dimly lit corridor, it was deserted. I knocked on Hatfield's door. No answer. I tried the handle. The door slid open into darkness. Something was wrong. I switched on the light and went in. Tom Hatfield lay there in the bunk asleep. Hey, Hatfield! Rise and shine. We're coming into Adana. You've got to get off. I shook him. He didn't move. Then I saw blood on his pillow and on his head. I looked around quickly. The briefcase was gone. Kevorkian! Kevorkian!
Is something wrong, sir?
Did either of you see anybody go into number 10?
No, nobody. Who should go?
Look, do you have keys to the doors?
But no, there are no keys. They lock from the inside, a sliding bolt and chain. Nobody can get in once they are locked.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew Tom Hatfield would have locked that door. Somebody must have gotten in some other way and left that corridor door open as a false clue. But how? Then I noticed the door which connected to number 8. I tried it. It was locked. This didn't make sense. But through my mind was racing one thought. American dispatches have been stolen. Tom Hatfield is out. It's up to me. I searched the room. I found an automatic under the mattress, but no briefcase. I heard the train start up again. We were leaving Adana. I looked again at the connecting door. Then I got it. The bolt was fastened on the other side of that door, but on this side it was not. That meant that someone could have come in through number 8. I knocked on the door. I heard a movement, and then the bolt slid back and the door swung open. I was face to face with Mr. Chiniata, and he was staring at the gun in my hand.
What is it? What is that for?
The briefcase. The bag of my friends. Is it here?
Briefcase? Bag? We have here only our valises.
This door has been opened. Something is missing.
Oh, if you have lost something, I pray you to look. I know nothing of it. Come in, please, and look.
All right, I will. I'm not accusing anyone, but I just want to be sure that... Oh! The next thing I felt was a stinging coldness on my face, rushing of wind. I realized that I was hanging half out of the window of the car. It was shoving me out of the train. Savagely, I kicked. But something gave, and I pushed myself back and slid down onto the floor. I felt something hard under me. The gun. In the dim compartment, I saw them coming at me. Chiniara and Drika. I raised the gun.
What is it? What has happened?
Oh, look! On the floor.
Shut the door quickly.
Are they...
Wait, let me look. Yes. Both of them. Finish.
They took the briefcase. I'm sure they did.
Hey, who's shooting up the place?
Hatfield.
Holy cow, will you look at that? What's happened?
Well, the briefcase. It's here someplace. I'm sure it is.
Hey, wait a minute, fella. You're all banged up here. Looks like we both got bumped. Here, sit down. You'll need a drink. Mary, you'll find a pint in my bag. Bring it in here, will you?
But they got the papers. We ought to look.
They did.
Yeah, the briefcase isn't here. I don't see it.
Well, there wasn't anything in that briefcase except some old Istanbul newspapers. They probably threw it out the window. Back at Hyder Pasha, a Britisher I know warned me to be careful on this trip. I put my classified material someplace else.
Oh, but then that means I killed 2 men without any cause. Without a shred of evidence to back up my story.
How we waste time. Quick, the Syrian border police got on the train at Adana. They might be here any minute. Now, who is dead here?
Mary, the deadhead, took me into Hatfield's room and carefully administered first aid to my cuts and bruises. But Kevorkian and Hatfield were busy in number 8. What are they doing?
Never mind. Pay no attention.
But they're throwing the bodies out of the window.
Think not of it, please. Kevorkian is a Macedonian. When he fought the Germans at Thessalonica, he threw bodies over the cliffs. He knows what he is doing.
Oh, but
you are a brave man, too. Even if you are not Macedonian. You would be judgment tried for 2-3 years in spite of your age and your innocence. It is better to have no bodies.
What's that?
Be quiet now. The border police.
Well, we got the room cleaned up just in time.
Number 8. Nyara and Rika.
She has their passport. I forgot.
No, they are not here.
I can tell you about Chiniara and Rika. This man here, Mr. Ward, he is American general in disguise. Secret Service. He put Chiniara and Rika off at Adana with pistols. They were spies.
Good heavens. You'll never believe that.
Never mind. This man is a Syrian. He does not care what happens in Turkey. But do you have any Syrian money?
Oh, yes. Here. In my wallet.
Good. Give it to me. Thank you. Now, come with me, Sergeant.
Do not worry now, Mr. Ward. In a moment, Kevorkian will have those passports. We will throw them out the window, and there will be no trace.
And to think, Mary, I thought you might be drawing down an Axis paycheck.
It is no matter. Now we are out of Turkey. And before long, I can go to United States.
Baby, that might not be so easy. You've got no money, no passport, no transportation through the combat zones.
Never mind. I shall do it. I walk to here from Macedonia. I can walk all the way. Like St. Paul in the Bible walked to Rome.
Well, I wish you luck, but you'll have a time getting by British control at Aleppo. You can't smuggle a pack of cigarettes past them.
Oh, but what about me? What about a murderer?
I don't know. We'll see.
It was morning when the train pulled into Aleppo, the station where British control came on. Trip had been pretty awful, with Tom trying to act as if nothing had happened, and with me staring into that empty room, imagining Chiniara and Rika sitting there staring back at me. Maybe they had been spies, maybe not. Now they were dead, and I was in trouble. We knew that the minute the train stopped. A soldier stood outside our windows and said,
"Look here. Everyone remains in his place in this car."
We waited silently for many minutes. Then a British major in khaki shorts stepped in. Behind him I saw Kevorkian and Mary the Deadhead standing in the doorway.
Good morning, I'm Radcliffe. I'm looking for 2 missing passengers identified as Greeks, Chiniara and Rika by name. Oh, come now, they seem to have been in the next compartment. And here. What became of them?
Were there 2?
Young lady.
Yes, sir?
You weren't in number 8, were you? You don't seem to have in the other place. Nor a Syrian entrance visa.
Please. I sat down in the corridor.
It's quiet. Conductor, don't you remember 2 passengers booked through to Aleppo? One was a stout man, bookseller, who escaped from Greece 10 days ago. The other was...
Those. They descended from the car at Adana. One was fat with slick hair, and the other... yes.
Really? I say, isn't that a bullet hole in the wall up there? And you, sir, Mr. Ward, isn't it? How did you hurt your forehead?
An accident. I bumped into...
Oh, yes, quite. I should tell you that the Armenian couple in number 14 heard shots just after passing Adana. They were so frightened they locked themselves in until now.
It's no use. I shot them. Both of them. They hit me first.
Please realize that I'm not joking. My orders are to find those 2 pseudo-Greeks wherever they may be.
Wait a minute. You said pseudo-Greeks?
You mean, Major, you want to find them?
And how, as you Americans say.
But why?
Because we're advised by Istanbul that certain Axis agents have been working out of the Balkans with identification as refugees. These 2, Chiniara and Dikar, were on this train. Our man on the train saw them throw something out at Adana. They hardly threw themselves out.
No, we did that. Your man at Haida Pasha tipped me off to expect trouble.
Really?
So they were agents.
Certainly they were spies. I knew that. No Greek would be fat like Chiniara after only 1 week escape from the Germans.
And no Greek would have hair oil from Paris.
Well, that being the case, will somebody start telling the truth?
I will. This mild little gentleman, knowing nothing of the war and fighting, he killed you 2 men in a gunfight. How you say, like nobody business. And now, please, he is still suffering from shock. So will you please give him a plane direct to Cairo where he can rest? And this American courier, he is late with dispatches. He must have a place in the plane too. And since I cannot enter Syria without a passport, will you please put me also on the plane? Because in Cairo, I can get a job as a nurse with the Ella Greeks from Macedonia who are there. And maybe God will then give me a way to go to America, like he passed St. Paul through the Taurus Gate. Is it a deal, Major? 3 places on the first plane, and you have your men like the Royal Canadian Hoosies, only dead.
The plane could be arranged, of course, if...
All right, Mr. Ward. Tell him. Tell him.
With the eyes of that amazing girl on me, my courage came back. I told him my story, completely, in every detail. He listened carefully and took it all down on his pad, and afterwards he said...
That story, Mr. Ward, is not one bit of evidence to support it. By your own statement, the evidence is buried in the snow on the slopes of the Taurus Mountains.
Nuts. I tell you, I helped check it out.
And I examined the 2 men. I am a trained nurse, and I said they were dead.
And for identification, I, a soldier of Macedonia, can swear that their passports were the men you say.
Very well. I'll ring the aerodrome. The evidence of 3 good witnesses is sufficient.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Three Good Witnesses by Harold Lamb, adapted for radio by John Dunkel, with Morgan Farley as Humphrey Ward, Jack Webb as Tom Hatfield, Jeanette Nolan as Mary the Deadhead, and Harry Bartell as Kevorkian. Music was conceived and conducted by Cy Fure. Beginning next Sunday night, Escape will be heard at a new hour, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Next Sunday night, we escape with another exciting adventure story, created for you by one of the world's great authors.
Good night, then, until 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday night, when again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The Adventures of Christopher Wells program, formerly scheduled at this time, is now broadcast at a new time on Tuesday evenings. Tune in for The Adventures of Christopher Wells next Tuesday and every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
You're alone in Paris, unable to speak the language, unable to cope with a gigantic conspiracy which seeks to convince you that you are mad. You are the victim of a plot from which there is no escape.
Escape. Produced, directed, and tonight written by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to Paris at the time of the Great Exposition, and one of the recurring legends of our time, an Alexander Wilcott's version of the story of the Vanishing Lady.
Another cup of tea, Bruce?
No, thank you, my dear. I just light up my pipe now and have a look at the Evening Standard.
I'd like another, please, Mother.
All right, Alice. Only one sugar, dear. We must watch our figures, you know.
What nonsense. A growing girl like Alice needs plenty of sugar.
See, Mother, Daddy approves.
Perhaps. But Mother is still boss.
Yes, Mother.
There's a dear.
Mother.
Yes, dear.
I've been thinking.
Yes, dear.
I've been thinking about my grandparents.
Oh.
I know all about Daddy's parents. How Grandfather Stanley commanded a dreadnought at the Battle of Jutland.
It was not a dreadnought, Alice. It was a heavy cruiser.
Oh, yes. Heavy cruiser. When he got to VC, and how Grandmother Stanley was a volunteer nurse at Westall Arch when the Zeppelins came over. And I know about your father, too, and how he died in India from his wounds, and how gallant he was at the KIBM Pass. But, Mother...
Yes, dear.
You've never told me anything about Grandmother Winship.
Haven't I?
No, and I'd like to know something
Bruce.
about her.
The child's 16. I think it's time she knew.
But, Bruce...
And you'd probably feel better to get it off your chest.
What, Mother? What is it?
Well, my dear, I've never talked about your grandmother because I've always half believed that someday, somehow, she would come down our garden walk and... I know it sounds silly, and explain where she's been for the last 20 years.
Why? What happened to her?
I don't know. And I don't suppose I ever will.
Cynthia, darling, if it's going to upset
No,
you...
Bruce, you're quite right. It would be best to get it off my chest as you put it. As you know, Alice, I was born and brought up in India. And I was about your age when my father was killed in the Khyber campaign. Mother decided to leave India for good and return to her old home in Warwickshire. However, since it was necessary for her to go to Paris to attend to some details of my father's estate, she decided that we should leave the PLO boat in Marseille and proceed by train. You may imagine the timidity with which we two unescorted ladies traveled across France, without the slightest knowledge of the language, and without indeed the assurance that we could find a hotel room in Paris, though we had telegraphed for reservations for Marseille. You see, the great Paris Exposition had just opened, and the city was jammed with visitors from all over the world. You may imagine our relief when we arrived at the Grand Hotel Universel and heard the clerk speak in quite understandable English.
Ship. Welcome, welcome. You will please to sign the register, air and air.
You have our reservation.
Oh, indeed, yes. Most fortunate, madame, that you telegraphed. I have reserved for you the last room in the house.
Oh, I'm so relieved. Yes, Cynthia. You may as well learn now to sign a register for yourself.
Oh, yes, Mama. Where do I write?
There in that line.
Oh, yes, I see.
Voila. You are fatigué from your journey, no? I shall have the boy show you to your rooms at once. Chasseur, chasseur!
Oui, monsieur.
Le parfum 342 pour mademoiselle et madame Winship tout de suite.
Bien, monsieur.
This is your baggage, madame?
Yes, B6.
Le voilà le bagage. Il y a 6 pièces.
You'd best carry the little one with the medicine in it.
Yes, Mama. Thank you. I'll take that one. The little red one.
Très bien. This way, ladies.
Keep your eye on that porter, Cynthia. I don't trust this Frenchman.
Oh, Mama. I don't think he'll make off with our things. Here's the list.
Troisième étage.
What him?
Oh, I do wish we could have gone straight on to Southampton.
But you'd only have had to come back across the channel to see the solicitor, Mama. We really saved time this way.
I suppose I mean I wish we hadn't come to Paris at all. Such a sinister place.
Oh, Mama.
Voilà, le troisième.
This way, ladies. To the right.
Attendez. Eh bien?
338, 340, 342. Oh, voilà. Entrez, ladies.
Thank you.
Oh, what a lovely big room. And look, Mama. French windows. And the park out there.
No, thank you.
With the statues on it.
Merci.
Oh, look at the river over there. And those beautiful, beautiful bridges. Oh, Mother, it's something out of a book.
Yes, my dear. That's the trouble with Paris. It's so attractive. But underneath it's evil.
And look at the furniture. The gilt clock. And this lovely marble table. Oh, Mama, everything is so French.
I'll be very glad to be on my way to where everything's English by this time tomorrow. Now, come away from that window and help me get into something comfortable. Yes, dear.
Yes, Mama, of course.
I don't know when I've been so tired. I just can't seem to catch my...
Mama, what's the matter? Mama, speak to me. Here, I'll get you up into the bed. There. Now, let me loosen your corset. Here, Mama, here are the smelling salts. Breathe deeply, darling. Mama. The telephone. I've got to get a doctor. Hello, operator. Will you please send a doctor up to room number... Oh, let me see. Number 342.
Pardon? Qu'est-ce que mademoiselle dit?
Will you please send a doctor to room number 342?
Je ne comprends pas. Qu'est-ce que mademoiselle
A doctor?
Oh, oui, un docteur. Oui, mademoiselle, tout de suite.
While I waited for the doctor, I did everything I could think of to bring my mother back to consciousness. I massaged her fingers and toes. I put wet cloths on her forehead. I waved the smelling salts under her nose. But she lay silent and white and unmoving like one dead. Only the quick, shallow movement of her breast assured me she was not. And all the time another anxiety possessed me. What if this doctor could not speak English? How should I tell him the circumstances of Mother's unexpected fainting? How should I understand his instructions for treatment? I'm sure it was not long, although it seemed like an eternity before he arrived, accompanied by the manager of the hotel. And to my great relief, they both spoke English. The doctor felt Mother's pulse, took her temperature, and did the usual things that doctors do. Then he turned to the tail-coated hotel manager.
Parle-t-elle français? Pas un mot, vous en êtes sûr? Tout à fait. Alors, je ne peux parler à mon aise. Monsieur, ceci, c'est une affaire très sérieuse. N'ayez pas l'air alarmé lorsque je vous mets au courant. Cette femme est atteinte de la peste. De la peste? Elle n'a qu'une heure à vivre. Je n'ai pas besoin de vous dire...
While they talked in this language I couldn't understand, I looked from one face to the other, trying to read from their expressions how serious my mother's illness was. But they were as casual as though they were ordering dinner. Finally, I could stand it no longer. They must. You must tell me. What is the matter with her?
Mademoiselle, your mother is ill, yes. Seriously ill. It is a collapse. Due perhaps to the strain of traveling. However, a week or two of absolute rest.
A week or two? We were to go on to England tomorrow.
That would be out of the question. She cannot be moved for at least several days. Right now, she must have a complete rest. The next 24 hours will be critical.
Oh, Mama. Poor Mama.
Now, mademoiselle, you must not break down, too. I need your help.
Yes, doctor.
Immediately, I need some medicine. Will you fetch it for me?
Why, yes.
I must not leave your mother for a moment during these critical hours. Here, I will write down this address and a little message to my wife.
Your wife?
Yes, I have the medicine already prepared at my home. It will be faster to go there for it than to a pharmacy. There are a few chemists who have the ingredients.
But couldn't you telephone?
Alas, I have no telephone.
Well, then a messenger, perhaps.
Oh, mademoiselle, you do not know Paris en fête. With the exposition opening, nowhere can you find a reliable messenger. They are all selling souvenirs. No, mademoiselle, you will accomplish the errand more rapidly yourself.
Voici l'adresse. Here's the address, 24 bis Rue Val-de-Grâce. And here is the message to give to my wife.
But I don't know Paris at all. I'm a total stranger here.
I'm sure the manager here will give the necessary instructions to the caddy.
Indeed, I will. If mademoiselle is ready?
Before I quite knew what was happening, I was seated in a rickety taxicab outside the hotel, with the doctor's message clutched in my hand, while the hotel manager gave a voluble direction to the cabby.
C'est un pauvre assez grand pour remplacer cette vieille bagnole. Allez au petit pain, hein? Prenez la piste la plus circuiteuse et surtout ne soyez pas de retour en moins de 2 heures. Entendu? Entendu. Bon. It is arranged, mademoiselle. Jacques here is one of our most trusted cabbies. He will get you to the doctor's house and back in safety.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. And you will look after Mother, won't you?
Oh, indeed I will. Of that you may be sure.
When we left the hotel, we crossed a huge square with statues around it and turned into a wide avenue which led up a gentle incline, at the top of which was a huge arch. But before long, we turned off to the right into narrower streets. It must have been 20 minutes later when we turned into another wide boulevard, and I saw another huge arch up ahead. Or was it the same arch? Driver!
Mademoiselle?
Haven't we passed that arch before?
Regardez, mademoiselle, voici l'Arc de Triomphe. Là-bas, la Tour Eiffel.
Driver, I don't want a sightseeing tour. I want to go to this address directly. Don't you understand? Please, now take me there at once.
En fait, tant mieux. De la patience, mademoiselle. Paris, c'est une grande ville, voyons.
At last, we turned into a narrow street and pulled up before a grim grey house. The blue enameled sign on the wall read number 24 bis. I jumped out of the cab almost before it stopped, rushed up the 3 stone steps and pulled at the brass bell knob. Oh, hurry. Hurry, hurry, please.
Oui?
The doctor sent me for some medicine. Here. Please read this.
Retenez cette jeune femme aussi longtemps possible. C'est de la plus grande importance pour l'avenir de Paris et même de la France. Oh, entrez, mademoiselle.
Thank you.
Quand vous ne pouvez plus la faire
The doctor's wife stood there reading and rereading the note as though she didn't understand it. And until I thought I would scream. Oh, please hurry. Get the medicine. It's my mother. She may be dying. I must get back to her. Please hurry.
Asseyez-vous.
She pointed to a chair.
Attendez.
And slowly walked down the hall and closed the door behind her. I waited. And waited. And I wondered. Wondered about the time the taxi had taken to get here. About that arch that looked so familiar. And I was torn by the 100 nameless anxieties that torture you when your nearest and dearest is ill. And then I heard something that froze my blood. A telephone. A telephone clearly ringing somewhere in the house. But the doctor had said he had no telephone. That was the reason I must come all the way for the medicine. No, it couldn't be in this house. It must be next door or across the street. Of course, that's where the sound was coming from.
Allô?
But no.
Oui, elle est ici maintenant.
It was the voice of the doctor's wife answering the phone. Oh, no. No, what monstrous plot was this? I felt my scalp crawl with terror. Brain pounded, my head felt as though it would burst. I wanted to scream, to run out of this awful house, to run all the way across Paris to the bedside of my mother.
Voilà, mademoiselle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Au revoir, mademoiselle.
Now, driver, please. Please, in the name of your own mother, hurry back to the hotel as fast as possible. Please.
Ben oui. Entrez de son mieux, mademoiselle. Roulant.
But my pleading was of no use. Either it was misunderstood or ignored. We crawled across Paris just as slowly as we had come. And I was certain I saw that same white arch 3 times. But at last we crossed the great square with the statues in it. And I knew we were close to the hotel. Please hurry.
Entrez de son mieux, voyons.
Just beyond the great square, we turned up a narrow street, which shortly entered a wide circle, in the middle of which was a tall, slender monument. The driver swung around the monument and pulled up before the entrance of the hotel, reached back and opened the door.
Voilà, mademoiselle.
I jumped out of the cab. And then I saw the sign over the entrance. It said, Hotel Ritz. Driver, you've taken me to the wrong hotel. I'm staying at the Grand Hotel Universal.
Mais non, mademoiselle, je vous ai pris en Ritz. Et je vous dépose en Ritz il y a 5 ans. 5 ans au
I don't understand what you're saying, but will you please take me to the Grand Hotel Universal?
Mais c'est ici que je vous ai pris, et c'est ici que je vous dépose.
Oh, you stupid man, can't you understand? My mother is ill. You've taken more than 2 hours to get me to that doctor's house and back. Can't you understand? My mother is sick, perhaps dying.
Mademoiselle, les affaires ne me regardent pas. Donc, voici, la
musique va payer. A small group of passers-by stopped and were listening curiously to the argument. Then they joined in and started taking sides. Everywhere I looked for foreign faces, strangers, enemies. And then, shouldering his way through the crowd, I saw a bare-headed young man in tweeds with a pipe clamp in his teeth. And before he had a chance to speak, I knew help had come.
I say, having some trouble?
Oh, thank heavens you're English.
All right, sure. What seems to be the matter?
I told him rapidly as I could. And he paid the mulish cabby.
Merci, monsieur.
Popped me into another cab. And 5 minutes later, we walked into the lobby of the Grand Hotel Universal. The manager was behind the desk. My mother. Is she all right?
I beg your pardon?
My mother, Mrs. Winship in 342. Is she all right?
Mademoiselle must be mistaken. There is no Winship in 342.
What?
342 is occupied by Monsieur Auguste Noailles, a permanent guest.
But don't you remember me? I'm Cynthia Winship. 2 hours ago, you put me into a taxi to go to the doctor's house for some medicine for my mother.
I am afraid that Mademoiselle is mistaken. I have never seen her before in my life. Well, look here, what is this?
No, listen, I swear it to you. It's just as I say. We found a register less than 3 hours ago. We got in on the train from Marseille.
Well, let's have a look at the register.
Yes. I'll show you I'm in 342. Where is the register?
It is there, mademoiselle. You may see it for yourself. See, today's date. 14 guests registered, but I don't see any mademoiselle or Madame Winship. Do you?
No. What have you done with my mother? What have you done with my mother?
Please, mademoiselle.
You have done something with my mother.
I ask you to leave the hotel. We'll get to the bottom of this. Perhaps mademoiselle is mistaken. Perhaps she is registered at some other hotel.
No.
This is the hotel. The Grand Universal. You were standing there when we arrived. You handed my mother the pen with which she registered. You came to the room with the doctor. You put me in the taxi.
But I assure you, mademoiselle, there are these are fantasies of
wait a minute.
What is it?
That bellboy there. He carried our baggage. He'll remember.
Garçon.
Oui, monsieur.
Vous vous souvenez avoir déporté le bagage de madame en numéro 3 à 4 de cet après-midi?
Non, monsieur.
There were 6 pieces, don't you remember? You wanted to take them all, and I insisted on carrying the jewel case. It was a little red one?
Oh, non, mademoiselle. C'est la première fois de ma vie que je vois mademoiselle.
He says you never saw her in his life before.
But this is monstrous. It's impossible. My mother is somewhere in this hotel. What have you done with her? What have you done with her?
Now then, how do you feel, Miss Fincher?
Better, thank you. This soup was very nourishing.
No, won't you have something else? Salad, bit of roast?
Thank you, no. A cup of tea, perhaps?
Certainly. Gaston?
Monsieur?
Une tasse de thé pour mademoiselle.
Tout de suite, monsieur.
I don't know how to thank you, Mr. You realize I don't even know your name.
It's Bruce. Bruce Stanley.
I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Stanley.
It's a pleasure, Miss Winship.
It's Stanley. You believe me, don't you?
Of course I do, Miss
We
Winship.
did register at that hotel. We were in room 342. I can even describe the furnishings. There was a big window that went from the ceiling to the floor.
Well, every hotel room in Paris has windows like that, Miss Winship.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Well, in this room, the draperies were plum-colored. There was a marble table, black marble it was, and a gilt clock. It had run down. The hands had stopped, I remember, at 20 minutes past 3. The walls were covered in rose brocade, and the bedspread was a washed-out yellow. Oh, if I could only get into that room, you'd see I'm not making this up.
I'm sure you won't. Perhaps I can find a way to make them let you in the room.
Oh, can you?
Well, yes, I'm with the embassy, you know, undersecretary sort of thing. I believe the British Empire has enough influence to change the mind of an obstinate Paris innkeeper.
Then let's do it. Right away.
Well, I'm afraid the might of Britain can't move that fast. It's past dinner time. But tomorrow we'll see.
Tomorrow? But I must get into that room tonight. I have no money. Nowhere to sleep.
Well, we can do nothing with the people at the hotel. You saw that. We'll just have to be patient until tomorrow. I'm sure I can find a room for you tonight in a pension near the embassy.
You're so very kind. How can I ever thank you, Mr. Stanley?
Well, you might begin by calling me Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh.
What is it?
I just thought of something. The doctor.
The doctor?
Yes, the one the hotel manager brought in to look after Mother. I still have his address somewhere here in my purse. Yes, here it is. Oh, we must go there immediately. He can tell us about Mother.
Let's see. 24 bis Rue Val de Grace. Well, that's not far. It's just off the Boulevard Raspail near the Luxembourg.
How long would it take to get there by taxi?
Oh, about 10 minutes.
But it took over an hour this afternoon.
Voilà, monsieur, 24 bis, Rue Val de Grace.
Well, here we are.
Yes, this is the place.
Attendez, mon vieux.
Très bien, monsieur.
The house is dark.
It's quite late.
Well, I don't care. We've got to find out tonight.
Qui est là? Qui sonne?
Where is he?
There, at the upstairs window. Monsieur le docteur, c'est mademoiselle Stanley. Elle veut vous questionner à propos de sa mère.
Stanley, je ne connais pas mademoiselle Stanley.
He doesn't know you.
But he must. Doctor, don't you remember this afternoon? You sent me to your house for medicine for my mother.
Je ne comprends pas l'anglais.
He says he doesn't understand English.
Oh, the liar. The dreadful liar. He does. He speaks perfect
Et
English.
vous, jeune homme, je vous conseille de ne pas déranger le repos des gens comme il faut et de vous en aller avant que je n'appelle la police.
I'm sorry, Cynthia.
Oh, Bruce. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
If it hadn't been for Bruce, I'm certain I should have gone out of my mind. He found a room for me at a pension near the embassy, where I spent a sleepless night of anxiety, almost beyond endurance. Bruce called for me at 10:30 the next morning and took me back to the hotel. To my surprise, the attitude of the manager had changed completely.
Mademoiselle may inspect room 342. We are only too glad to convince Mademoiselle that her mother is not and never was in the Grand Hotel Universel.
Why,
I personally will escort you to the room. This way, please, to the ascenseur.
Oh, Bruce, that terrible man. That horrible, horrible...
Don't let him upset you.
Monsieur, troisième étage. Bien, monsieur.
Now, remember what I told you last night, Bruce. You'll see plum-colored draperies, black marble top table, rose walls, and a gilt clock with a hand stopped at 20 minutes past 3. You'll see.
Yes, Cynthia.
Voilà, le troisième. This way, gentlemen. It was room 342. You wish to see Mademoiselle?
Yes, that's right. Third door to the right.
So.
You see, Bruce? I know where it is.
Yes, monsieur.
Here we are. Voilà. Enter, please.
Now, Bruce, you shall see the yellow bedspread. Oh.
Not quite the room you just described in the elevator, mademoiselle. The drapes are royal blue.
No.
Oh, a little dusty affair. I must have this room renovated. You see, there is no marble top finish.
No.
The clock, as you notice, is running.
No.
And right on time, it seems. The walls are not rose bouquet, but yellow-flowered wallpaper.
No.
Now, my dear mademoiselle, you see how thoroughly mistaken you are.
No. They had tried to make me think I was mad. They succeeded. I remembered nothing until I awoke in my aunt's house in England 2 weeks later. Thanks to Bruce, who never left my side during those terrible days when my sanity hung in the balance. Well, that's the story, Alice. That's why I've never been able to talk about your grandmother Winship.
Oh, Mother, how horrible.
Because all these years, I've clung to the foolish hope that somehow she'd come back and tell us herself what happened.
Poor dear.
You may as well dispel that hope forever, Cynthia.
What?
Since you have at last brought yourself to discuss your mother's disappearance, I think it's time you knew the true facts.
Bruce.
Your mother died 20 minutes after you left the hotel on that fool's errand for the doctor.
Oh, no.
She died of the bubonic plague. She'd caught it in India before she sailed. The doctor recognized the symptoms the moment he examined her. He told the hotel manager in French in your presence. They agreed that the matter must be kept completely secret. If the news leaked out that there was a case of plague in Paris, the city would have been emptied of visitors and the exposition would have been a failure.
Oh, Bruce.
The conspiracy of silence began in the hotel. The bellboy was paid to claim he never saw you. The taxi driver was paid well to take you to the doctor's house by the most roundabout route. The note to the doctor's wife advised her to detain you as long as she could. And the taxi driver added his own imaginative touch by returning you to the Ritz instead of the Universal. I shudder to think what might have happened if I hadn't come through the Place Vendôme just then.
But you didn't know.
Not then.
When did you find out?
Next morning. By then, the conspiracy had grown to international proportions. The embassy had been advised. If the exposition was a failure, the franc would fall, the pound sterling would be affected, that sort of thing. I knew when we went back to the hotel you would not find your plum drapes and rose-colored walls and black marble top table.
And you let me go through with that?
What could I do? I was acting under orders. I knew that the hotel had completely fumigated and redecorated the room overnight, and everything was in readiness to repudiate your story. I had to let the last act of that dreadful farce play to its dreadful end.
Mother. What did they do with Mother?
Her body was removed from the room less than 30 minutes after you left it. And immediately burned.
Why? Why didn't you tell me this years ago? Why did you let me go on all this time?
This is the first time you've ever mentioned your mother since then, my dear.
Alice.
Yes, Mother?
There's a new issue of the Tatler in the library, dear. Wouldn't you like to look at it?
But, Mother, I want to...
Now, dear. There's a... want to have a talk with your father.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, has brought you The Vanishing Lady by Alexander Wolcott. Adapted for radio by Mr. Robeson. Cynthia was played by Joan Banks. Bruce was played by I Haverback. The hotel manager and cab driver were played by Ramsey Hill. The musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Fewer. Next week...
You are deathly afraid of snakes. And between you and a fortune, between you and escape, yawn the white jaws of a deadly cottonmouth.
Next week, we escape with Irvin S. Cobb's famous story, Snake Doctor. Good night, then, until this same time next week. When again we offer you Escape.